Colonel, it's me, Snake.
Check out those leaves falling off, Snake.
So, due to the nature of Metal Gear Solid, I'm gonna have to get political in this video. If relatively moderately central political opinions upset you, click off the video. Also, this video includes a flashy lights and glitchy effects, so if you have epilepsy, don't watch this. Anyways, disclaimer over. Enjoy the video. So, Metal Gear Solid 1 ended up being a massive hit, and as such, a sequel that raised the bar even further was in order. Kojima realized this and went, well, after much consideration, I think Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite game of all time. I have not stopped thinking about this game since I first played it. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a masterpiece of fiction. It reaches a kind of strange echelon that just can't be touched. It's a game that's changed my life and my worldview, and it continues to do so the more I begin to understand it and the older I get. But at the same time, MGS2 is a game that is deeply horrifying. It reflects how we process the world in such a deeply eerie way. It preys on your expectations of a sequel, and preys on the way fandom culture forces us to process works, and does so in order to break you down. Metal Gear Solid 2, as I understand it, is an anti-fan fiction. And trust me, you'll know what I mean by the end of this video. So are you ready for an existential crisis? Because I am!
It's like being in a nightmare you can't wake up from.
So let's start at the beginning, or the best I can at least. So Metal Gear Solid 1 was a huge, massive hit. It introduced the world to gaming as an art form and a bunch of memorable characters with it. The biggest one, of course, being Solid Snake, one of gaming's new icons. People were wondering where Kojima would take this main character. And not to mention, that post-credit scene, that's a big loose thread. And as a result, there was a lot of excitement around any kind of new sequel or anything. In fact, the hype was so high that people bought this giant robot game just because it included an MGS2 demo in it. And not to mention, this was a game that was on the PS Goddamn 2, which at the time was brand new cutting-edge next-gen technology.
But surely you've witnessed the raw beauty that is Tekken Tag Tournament.
Yeah, a game that looks like Tekken 3 running in enhanced mode.
What a disappointment.
Oh, I say!
Do you actually believe your crappy lineup can compete with Jet Set Radio, Grandia 2, Echo the Dolphin?
This bitch hardest.
And that technology is seen as soon as we start up a brand new game.
The Hudson River, 2 years ago. We had classified intelligence that a new type of Metal Gear was scheduled for transport. The whole thing stank, but our noses had been out in the cold too long.
Our game begins in New York under the George Washington Bridge. And already compared to MGS1, this game has its RTX turned all the way up, dude. The cars, the rain, the cuts to a strange silhouetted man in a raincoat. I mean, we all know who it is, but the game's just tickling our balls, you know what I mean? Especially with that shot of that cigarette in his mouth. God damn! But then the man breaks into a sprint, takes off his jacket, and puts on his invisible gear. And then he bungee jumps off the bridge, infiltrating the ship as this epic chorus plays. And then he lands on the ship, slowly stands up, and yep, that's Solid Snake. Oh, and we can't forget Revolver Ocelot either. Snake then finally stands up and we get a good look at him. And this is when we get our title drop. Metal Gear Solid 2. We are so back! That whole intro cutscene is just so hype, man! With barely any dialogue, the game has already intrigued you. For one thing, it's just really badass, but it also already has you asking questions like, why is Snake in New York? What's Ocelot doing here? And wait, there's a new Metal Gear? Oh shit! Well, I know what I'm doing. But first, we gotta take one little call.
This is Snake. Do you read me, Otacon?
Loud and clear, Snake.
Kept you waiting.
Oh, now we're definitely back. Otacon 2? Speaking of winks and nods, Naomi and Mei Ling are also name dropped.
I'm happy as long as no one gives me any more unwanted gifts.
You mean that thing with Naomi?
And I can't say I miss the chattering nanny.
Mailing's not so bad.
This to me is fan service done right, where it's just a part of the universe. Furthermore, Snake and Otacon are actually written differently now as well. In the original game, Otacon was dorky and cowardly, but still viewing Snake as this role model legendary hero. In this game, however, it couldn't be any more different. He's way more laid back now, meaning that since Metal Gear Solid 1, he's actually developed, and he views Snake on a more mutual level after working with him for so long. And same goes for Snake, who isn't talking down to him anymore. He's no longer the nihilist from the first game, and it shows here. But they're also not out of character at all either. Like, this feels natural for them. But there is also one other big change, and that big change is who Snake is working for.
Don't you forget that you're part of Philanthropy now, an anti-Metal Gear organization and officially recognized by the UN.
Recognized, but still fringe, Otacon.
So yeah, Otacon and Snake are now part of Philanthropy, which again means their job is to stop any future Metal Gear projects. One of them being on this tanker ship in New York.
The mission objective is to make visual confirmation of the new Metal Gear being transported by that tanker and bring back photographic evidence.
We then get a brief rundown of our weapons and controls, and that is until a bunch of Russians invade our ship. So now we're in the middle of a hostile takeover too.
Looks like we're not the only ones after Metal Gear tonight.
Because naturally, this wasn't hard enough of a mission. However, the priority is still to find Metal Gear and take pictures. So at long last, we're finally in the actual game. And I want to get into just how good this tutorial is. You get one cutscene telling you what to do and whatnot. And immediately the moment you're in this game, you see a guy walking on the railing. So your first instinct is to use your trank dart. This is when you learn a couple of things. First, you can aim while in first person. And secondly, if you shoot an enemy with the trank, it takes a minute for them to fall asleep. Unless that is, you shoot them in the head. And thirdly, if you miss and hit the wall nearby, you realize that enemies will face the noise they just heard. Already, without telling you, the game has naturally told you like 3 whole mechanics. This is how almost the entire tanker is designed. It's a really well-hidden tutorial. Another example is the lockers. So when you get into the tanker, you open this door by pressing the Y button a bunch of times. So first you're taught that Y is the open button, but then you go inside of the ship and into the first room you see, which is a locker room. So you press the open button on some of these lockers, and you notice that some lockers are locked and others include items in them. So without saying a single word, the game has taught you an entirely new mechanic. This is a fantastic way to start your game. It's a hidden tutorial that also lets you goof off a little bit, so then you can learn the mechanics and secrets yourself, including some of the weirder ones.
Good.
Naked ladies.
Oh, don't worry, ladies. Snake does that for the men too.
Good.
What did Kojima mean by this? Now, like the last video, I won't go too in depth on the actual gameplay, but TLDR, if you couldn't already tell, this is a massive step up from the original. It's just an incredible feeling game overall, but then suddenly we get company.
Raven.
Wait, Vulcan Raven's here? But he died in the last game. How could he? Oh, it's just an action figure.
And my personal favorite, Vulcan Raven.
Now, I have no clue why there's an action figure of a terrorist on this tanker, and truth be told, I don't need to know, because it's just a goofy fan service. So anyways, here we are, the ship's controls, and suddenly we notice someone outside. So Snake sneaks up to her, and currently, this woman's having a conversation on the radio. So Snake listens in. So this woman is Olga Gorlukovich, and turns out she's the daughter of the Russian terrorist leader. And turns out she doesn't shave her armpits. Yeah, that's real. And also turns out she's a pregnant.
Father, I want to stay and fight.
There is no choice to make here, Olga. Need I remind you that you are carrying my grandchild?
So yeah, if I can get a little ahead of myself, our first boss involves us shooting a pregnant woman who doesn't shave under her arm. What did Kojima mean by this?
Where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas?
Anyway, so Snake holds her up and instructs her to toss out all her weapons. That is until she fights back and we get into our first boss of the game. It's a fairly simple boss overall, as we are technically still in the tutorial. However, doing things like shooting out lights or moving tarp to fire at her easier makes this boss way more intense and dynamic.
Also, if you go right here, the music changes.
Wow!
But of course, we take this woman out. Base. We even obtain her SOCOM as a souvenir, which by the way is another cool thing. You can take out enemies and bosses non-lethally now, thanks to the fact that your starting gun is indeed a trank dart, which actually gives you a much higher ranking at the end of the game. So while in MGS2 you still can kill people, you're rewarded for not doing so, which makes sense as Metal Gear Solid 1 was the game that directly insulted you for killing people.
You enjoy all the killing.
So in a general narrative way, this makes sense. There's no real story difference though, but overall, I'm fine with this. The core game stays the same, but MGS1 isn't invalidated at all. Anyway, so Otacon then calls us, and he tells us how exactly he found out about this Metal Gear on this ship, which was apparently through an anonymous tip. And turns out, Otacon has a younger stepsister, a girl he hasn't seen for about 10 years, and whose name is Emma Emmerich. Now, what does this have to do with anything, you may be asking?
That's not relevant. Excuse you.
Well, but the sender of the anonymous tip included their initials on the actual tip. And I'm sure you know where this is going by now.
The sender of the tip was EE.
EE? Emma Emmerich?
So either Otacon's stepsister is involved, or we're walking into a big old trap.
You don't find that suspicious?
Oh, side note, by the way, sorry to all the Meryl fans out there. So, like Metal Gear Solid 1, you get optional codex and shit, and if you call Otacon here, it's implied that Snake and Meryl broke up.
Looks like a little angel, doesn't she?
What's gotten into you? Sleeping Beauty may have been awakened by Prince Charming's kiss, but you better not try it here.
I'm with you. Besides, I've had enough of tomboys.
I know, dude. It fucking hurts me too, man.
I can't believe he didn't cry during Titanic. Do men even have feelings?
So we make it deeper into the ship and have a completely non-stealthy gunfight.
Stealth is a vital part of Metal Gear.
We then make it through this door, but a Russian soldier locks us behind it. He's then approached by one of his bosses, Revolver Ocelot, of course. But of course, if you know Revolver Ocelot at all...
What the? The Colonel will be joining you soon, comrade.
What the Sigma?
Cutting back to Snake, we get easily one of my favorite set pieces in the whole game. So right now, a big ol' military speech is happening, held by this guy, Scott Dolph, the Commandant of the US Marine Corps, which is internally being broadcast to a bunch of Marines. And you have to, right under their noses, sneak past like hundreds of soldiers. Oh, and there's a 7-minute time limit too, no pressure. There's even goofy shit like a projector that switches between screens, and playing Japanese women on one. But there's also multiple ways to get around all these people. And there are even different cutscenes for when you approach the Metal Gear, depending on what exactly entrance you decided to use. Anyways, we finally approach the Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
Ah, Metal Gear.
And yeah, that's a brand new model, Metal Gear Ray. But we have no time to ogle it, literally. Just take the pictures and go to this nearby PC, which Otacon has conveniently hacked for us, to the point where he even made a little sprite for himself. And I gotta say, you know, he's a really good artist. He also makes comments of the weird half-naked photos you take of the posters in the game.
Oh, this is,
What?
Nothing. It's nothing. I'll just make a backup of this one.
But anyways, we sent those Metal Gear photos to him, and thankfully right on time.
Snake, the speech is about to wind up. Forget the photos and get out of there now.
However, bad news, Ocelot's here, and he's here to ambush the party alongside the Russian leader. And if anyone tries anything, he's rigged a shit ton of explosives. Meanwhile, the Russian guy goes, oh, I want Mother Russia back again. Except one problem, that's not Ocelot's plan.
As I said, I came to take it back. Yes, returned to the Patriots.
The Lale Lule Lo.
So we get this super flashy action cutscene where Ocelot shoots the Russian guy and Scott Dolph and even his own Russian men, all in one foul swoop. And then, surrounded by Marines, he blows up the explosives on the boat. Amidst the chaos, though, Snake catches up to Ocelot. This is when real Kojima shit starts happening.
It's been a while, brother.
Huh?
So, you know how Ocelot lost his arm in the last game? Well, you may have noticed he has a new one, and there's something weird about it. So that new arm on Ocelot is Liquid Snake's arm. And apparently the arm is sentient and can possess Ocelot. Man, those, joke sessions must be really weird. Snake then blows up and Ocelot takes the new Metal Gear Ray, obliterating the entire tanker in the process, and leaving Solid Snake just kind of float around for a bit, until the waves eventually swoop him away. The new Metal Gear then takes off. We're then reminded that yes, indeed, Ocelot is working for the president.
Yes, of course, Mr. President.
Now all the...
Scientists had to make thousands of calculations to create the atomic bomb and determine its effects. Computers and atomic bombs, both products of World War II, grew up together. Information age. People, Information, and Technology Exhibition, National Museum of American History, Smithsonian Institute.
Our game begins in New York under the Verrazano Bridge. Hold on, wait, where the fuck are we? Where immediately we hear two familiar voices.
Snake, do you remember the sinking of that tanker 2 years ago? Of course.
Wait, what the fuck? Okay, so one of those voices is Colonel Campbell. I know that voice. I guess he started being a colonel again after enjoying Shadow Moses so much. But, who's the other guy? Because he ain't Snake.
Terrorists blow a hole in an oil tanker full of crude barely 20 miles off the shore of Manhattan. Your classic nightmare.
Wait a minute, that's not true, because we were just there. So the part we just played is the first part of MGS2, which is the tanker part. So the events of the tanker chapter happened 2 years earlier from this cutscene. However, we know damn well there was no oil spill, because this wasn't an oil tanker. It was just one big secret garage for a Metal Gear. But at least the government made a new oil rig, I guess? This new rig being called the Big Shell. Bad news though, terrorists have taken it over.
Approximately 6 hours ago, the Big Shell was seized by an armed group.
This group is Dead Cell, a bunch of former anti-terrorist specialists. They're pretty much just a Foxhound, only instead of genome soldiers, it's a Russian private military group. However, to make matters worse, they've also kidnapped the president. And this guy, whoever this is gonna take them down. One thing's for certain though, I'm not hearing things. This guy is certainly not Snake.
What are their demands? $30 billion. $30 billion? What makes them think they can get that much?
He's also apparently part of Foxhound now, so I guess there's a new Foxhound that the US started again, and we've recruited a guy who isn't Snake, but is going by Snake?
This is Snake.
Who the fuck is that?
Solid Snake.
This is Snake.
No, you ain't.
This doesn't last long, though, as we're given a new codename the moment we enter inside.
And by the way, Snake, we're changing your code name for all following communication. You are now designated Rotten.
Did you say nerd?
Not nerd, node.
Oh.
This guy kinda sucks. So, this is Raiden, and apparently he has 300 missions in VR under his belt.
I've completed 300 missions in VR.
Wow.
I feel like some kind of legendary mercenary.
Yeah, don't get ahead of yourself, buddy. Also, the game is now just lazily reusing lines from the original.
The codex receiver directly stimulates the small bones of your ear. No one but you will be able to hear it. The codex receiver directly stimulates the small bones of your ear. No one but you will be able to hear it.
You even start by hiding from enemies in a small warehouse room, just like the first game. There's even a cutscene with Solid Snake in an elevator, so just like the first game, who, as far as this guy is concerned, is just some random intruder. Oh, by the way, there's also a bunch of other reused lines from the first game.
Your radar isn't affected by the weather, but if you're discovered by an enemy, you won't be able to use it.
Snake, your radar isn't affected by the weather, but if you're discovered by an enemy, you won't be able to use it.
It gets jammed easily, I'm afraid. It's all made from currently existing technology. You won't be able to use it in an area with strong harmonic resonance, so be careful.
So be careful.
Is it just me, or does this fucking suck ass? Like, I'm not against fan service, but this isn't even really that. This is just, like, self-plagiarism. Anyways, we gotta find this thing called a node.
Did you say nerd?
No, you fucking idiot. Anyways, let's go activate that nerd. And wait a minute, what's this? A name and options menu? Why do we have to input our name? And why is there an options menu in these nodes? You can't access them through the pause menu either. You have to do it through either the main menu or through these nodes. But whatever, weird video gamey shit. Okay, so Raiden asks about saving the mission data, right? This is when we meet our save data person, one of the fan favorite Metal Gear characters.
Jack, is everything all right?
What are you doing here?
This is Rose, a character that, as we'll find out, is easily one of the Metal Gear characters of all time. And immediately, Raiden is not thrilled to see her. Also, yes, she is Raiden's girlfriend. And trust me, by the end of the game, you'll want them to break up already. Immediately, Raiden is just a complete dickhead to her. Just completely rude. But it's not long before you immediately find out why. Because Rose is fucking obnoxious.
I just switched frequencies. Jack?
What?
Do you know what day it is tomorrow?
April 30th. Is there something special about it?
Isn't there?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
She never tells him what it is, by the way. But then we escape up the elevator and get a good look at Raiden, who is, in fact, a complete fucking anime boy twink.
Jack? What? Do you know what day it is tomorrow?
April 30th. Is there something special about it?
Isn't there?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
But during this elevator sequence, which again is very much just Metal Gear Solid 1 again, we get a bit more info on what exactly we're doing here. So the terrorists, aka Dead Cell, are also going by the name Sons of Liberty. Now, unlike MGS1, we don't know who these people are except for the main leader, who is going by the name Solid Snake.
The hero of Shadow Moses?
Who we presumably just saw going up the elevator. But this can't be the case because on the tanker, Snake presumably died.
He died 2 years ago on that tanker after he blew it sky high.
Which we all know is some bullshit.
That's cap.
Taylor knew that.
That's cap.
Yeah, whatever. We get more expository dialogue. And finally, we're in the game. And the very first thing we can do is slip on bird shit. Continuing forward, we crawl under...
Raiden, look at that wire fence. You may be able to crawl through it.
Yeah, I kinda got that.
Crouch down using the crawl button. Then push the left stick in the direction you want to move.
I mean, I played through an hour of the...
Push the crawl button again to stand up.
Okay, yeah, whatever, I get... Oh, what now?
Raiden, SEAL Team 10 is in.
Oh, it's just more story shit, okay. We then make it inside the big shell, which is where I want to briefly detour and talk about the
Colonel, I've located the node, but it's under heavy surveillance. I can't get in any closer.
Well, never fucking mind, apparently. Because in spite of going through 300 VR missions, Raiden apparently has no idea how to knock on walls.
Flatten yourself against a wall and hit the punch button.
This has to be the dumbest video game protagonist, like, ever. In fact, he's so stupid that he needs, like, every mechanic explained to him. Also, from a game design standpoint, it's really weird the tutorial is now, even though we had a really good hour-long silent tutorial. And that's right, we've played through an hour or two of this game already, and now they're re-explaining the entire thing to us.
You stupid.
That's crazy.
What's 9 plus 10?
April 30th?
You stupid.
Anyway, so now I wanna...
Raiden, watch out.
Oh my God, can you let me do what I need to do?
There are sentries posted on the connecting bridge. They will spot you if you continue on course.
Thank you, Colonel. I couldn't tell from the obvious level design.
Use the hanging mode.
Hanging?
Yes, hanging? Please, Colonel. Tell me how to hang myself.
Don't forget the grip gauge.
Huh? We also intercept some Navy SEAL comms, and judging from the gunfire, it's not sounding too good. So Campbell instructs us to head to Strut B immediately. Although pro gamer tip, personally, I like going back to Strut F first, because you can find the...
Raiden, watch your back.
Oh my God, what now?
What? That's a cipher, a type of UAV.
I'm here to tell you right now. We don't care.
Anyway, so in Strut F, there's a giant warehouse. It's kind of like that second floor basement in the first game. It's loaded with weapons that we can't really access yet. However, we can pick up the M9 Trank Dart. And make sure you do this first, by the way, because it makes the early game a lot easier. I also want to briefly detour, well, I wanted to, but I kept getting interrupted, and briefly talk about how good the music in this game is. So Metal Gear Solid 1 soundtrack is iconic, but it was also very PS1. You see, for reasons that, I'm gonna be honest, are completely unknown and complicated to me. Seriously, finding a simple answer is like a Metal Gear cutscene to me. Metal Gear Solid 1 soundtrack was very, MIDI-like. It wasn't bad by any means. In fact, it's a phenomenal soundtrack. And if anything, its limitations were used to great effect. Metal Gear Solid 1 had a very industrial-sounding soundtrack. It was stealthy, but also very foreboding and cold, which makes sense as the game takes place in a giant nuclear research facility in Alaska, where you gotta find a giant walking death robot. It kind of reminds me of the weird, uncanny feeling that old PC games would have. However, because the PS2 allowed more memory and more space for shit, Kojima hired real-life film composer Harry Gregson Williams, composer of Shrek. That's not a joke, by the way, to compose the music for Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, MGS2 isn't my favorite soundtrack in the series. We'll get to that next time. But goddamn, this soundtrack is so goddamn good. Here, take a quick listen.
That real music, man. Come back home.
Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Let's save our game real quick.
Jack, do you remember what day tomorrow is?
that again.
Oh yeah, that's right. We have Rose as our save frequency, and she certainly, won't let us forget about that, mainly because Raiden forgot about everything else.
What is it, Rose? Talk to me.
I'd rather you figure it out. It's important.
Alright, well, these two have some baggage, but I like to save my—
Why not now?
Tomorrow seems more appropriate.
This whole thing's still going on, isn't it?
Is that the reason you decided to be part of this mission?
This isn't gonna happen every time I save, is it?
Jack, do you remember what day tomorrow is?
No, but I'm gonna kill myself if you keep talking, so I'm pretty goddamn close.
Anyway, so Raiden tells Rose to analyze Snake's burial records. Basically, every information you can find about Snake, give it to Raiden. We then arrive in Strut B and see a bunch of bloodied walls, which is just a watered-down version of the bloodied hallway from the first game. You don't even walk down it this time, it's all just a cutscene. Although in the next room, we do catch who's doing it, as we witness a bunch of Navy SEALs get killed by a fucking vampire?
Playboy Cardi, please, if you can hear us.
Okay, you know what? I don't want to hear it. The last game had the floating ghost guy who plays Smash Bros. Melee, alright?
Want to see my impression of every guy I'll never have sex with?
So you've played Super Smash Bros. Melee before?
I don't want to hear a single word about the vampire who cuts into his skin, alright?
5 today.
This is Vamp, and his name is Vamp, not because he's a vampire, but because, I kid you not, it's because he's bisexual. That is a real part of Metal Gear lore.
Where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas?
Anyway, so after Vamp kills a whole squad, Raiden encounters him, and Vamp sneaks up on him, but thankfully we're saved by a random Navy SEAL. That is, until Vamp pins him down and notices something unusual.
Strange smell. You smell like... Are you?
It has to be.
So during the fight, Vamp, who is indeed a Dead Cell member, that wasn't clear enough, gets a call that Dead Cell indeed has the president.
Be right there.
Naturally, he gets away too. So we check in on this other guy who sounds awfully familiar.
My name is Pliskin. Iroquois Pliskin.
I wonder who this guy who looks and sounds like Snake could be. He also reveals that Foxhound was disbanded years ago, and he asks Raiden what exactly his experience is. Raiden then explains that even though he wasn't in field training, he did indeed play Metal Gear Solid VR missions. I'm not really exaggerating, by the way. Not only is footage of VR missions shown, but Raiden also describes specific VR missions levels.
I've had extensive training, the kind that's indistinguishable from the real thing.
Like what?
Sneaking mission 60, weapons 80, advanced
VR, huh?
But realistic in every way.
Yeah, so when Raiden says he's done 300 missions in VR, that's not a random number. That's the exact number of missions that are in VR missions. So yeah, this at least implies that Metal Gear Solid VR missions isn't just like a game, but rather it's an entire in-universe course for training soldiers. In other words, it's a living, breathing part of the real Metal Gear canon. In spite of this though, Pliskin kinda just laughs off the whole thing. He's overall just not a big fan of the whole idea.
War is a video game. What better way to raise the ultimate soldier?
So you're saying that VR training is some kind of mind control?
This, by the way, isn't far off from reality at all, as video games have been used to train and recruit soldiers.
Even Call of Duty?
Especially Call of Duty. So Pliskin's in pretty bad shape, but also explains to us that Dead Cell was made by ex-president George Sears.
Big boss.
He also further claims that Snake is dead, even though, you know, he talks like him.
But he's a legend.
Legends are usually bad news. There's not a lot of difference between heroes and madmen.
We don't need to do anymore. All done. You're
Solid Snake.
That's it. No more.
And furthermore, he gives Raiden a pack of cigarettes. So, you know, this ain't exactly subtle at all. We also get his SOCOM and his frequency. And we continue to the BC connecting bridge, where we meet the second Dead Cell member, as well as a bunch of Navy SEALs trying to fire at her. All while right in front of her is the unconscious current president. The issue? No matter what they do, their bullets aren't hitting her. This gives Vamp ample time to come out and take the president. Meanwhile, the Navy SEALs even try shooting a grenade launcher at her, and it completely fails.
A dud!
Also weirder, this woman seems to want to die.
Come, put me out of my misery.
Today is another bad day. Is there anyone here that can give me happiness?
A lot of this is, of course, undermined when she starts shooting a giant railgun at people, but one thing's for sure, she's extremely lucky on the battlefield. Hence her name, which, by the way, is Fortune. Even if that luck comes with extreme disillusionment. She also has a really effective theme song. It's a solo saxophone, which is smooth like her luck, but is also just incredibly lonely. It's so haunting and so perfect for the character. So after witnessing another squad get single-handedly taken out, Raiden realizes and is told he's kind of the only person who's left. And you know, upon realizing all this, he starts to freak out a little bit.
They couldn't hit her no matter how hard they tried. And that vampire too, it's like being in a nightmare you can't wake up from.
Which actually is interesting because when Raiden tries to question his mission, he's often refocused away from it.
The entire mission is in your hands now. Do you understand?
But
Jack, snap out of it.
And you, Rose, I can't believe you're on this mission. I keep thinking I'll wake up.
Raiden, this is real. And that's why you won't wake up.
So yeah, like the first game, there might be some red flags going on here. You'd think Campbell would learn his lesson from the first game, but not really. Also, by the way, if you're sick of Jack and Rose already, don't worry, because so is Campbell. Which tells me that some of the fan fiction-like writing might be intentional.
I've made up my mind to stay with you. Whether this is real or a bad dream, I'll keep watching you till it's over.
Thank you, Rose. And I won't let you be just a dream.
Are you two done?
Shut the fuck up, y'all blowing up the chat and shit.
Anyway, so apparently there are also C4s on the big shell, and we gotta find a bomb disposal guy to help us out. So we go into a restroom and look at some boobies. By the way, you can kiss posters and get an achievement for it in this game. What did Kojima mean by this? You can also walk up to a urinal and call the Colonel, and if you didn't already find out, you can find out now that Kojima has the humor of a 12-year-old.
Raiden, what are you looking at? Oh, I see. Rosemary.
What?
Could you excuse him for a moment?
Huh?
You know, so he can...
Ah, I get it.
So we make it inside this room here, where Raiden starts holding up a random NYPC guy.
Freeze!
Don't shoot.
Pliskin then comes in to stop Raiden from shooting him.
Did I tell you could move?
It's all right. He's not one of the bad guys.
Are you guys going trick-or-treating? Fuck my fucking ass! Are you guys going trick-or-treating?
By the way, this guy is Peter Stillman. He's the bomb disposal expert we're looking for, and a guy who was even pulled out of retirement for this. And when they say expert, let's just say they mean it. This guy's a legend.
So you're the bomb disposal guy.
Kid, this is the bomb disposal guy. Open any explosives disposal textbook and you'll see his name.
Sadly, though, he's not too proud of it, as he has a very good reason as to why he retired. That reason even costing him his leg.
A famous church got wiped off the map thanks to me, with too many lives inside. All I lost was this leg.
With that being said, though, he also has a very good reason to help us, as he also kinda helped create another Dead Cell member, Fat Man. A guy who's kinda like one big bomb school shooter, as he was fixated and talented with bombs since he was 10 years old. Which is sad because Peter Stillman saw himself in him, teaching him a bunch of skills and raising him like a son. Except skills were the only thing he's taught him.
I didn't teach him the most important thing I had to tell him. There are some things you have to pass on. The trick is to know which one.
As wordy as a lot of this stuff is, this kind of hit home for me, as I've known quite a few people, and I was one of them to a lesser extent, that were taught exactly this and not much else. That pure, stoic, warrior-like skill is what gets you by. Mentally, however, some of these people grew up to be kind of fucked up, because all they really had in terms of worldview was just pure nihilism, hitting a dead end when it came to finding their own goals in life. And this is kind of the thing Stillman has to face off against. I think it's really interesting. A pure skill does not make who you are, and we're about to see where all this is leading to.
All I taught him was skills. And now I have to stop him from using it to destroy us all.
All this leads into Stillman teaching us how to freeze bombs, which we'll have to find with a special sensor that can sense cologne, because a fat man puts cologne on his bombs.
Oh! 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 Oh, man! Oh, my gosh! Yeah, oh, yeah.
So long story short, we're splitting up with Pliskin on one big search for a bunch of C4 bombs. Right before that, though, Stillman gets suspicious of Pliskin.
Semper Fi.
That man's no SEAL. Semper Fi. Marine Corps talk.
Basically, I wonder who Pliskin could really be. It's not even subtle either, because if you run to the CD connecting bridge, you catch a man in a box running away from you. Interesting. Anyways, yeah, we gotta freeze a bunch of bombs now, which are hidden all around the first area of the big shell. By the way, I love how Big Shell is designed. You see, in MGS1, a lot of Shadow Moses felt too vertical, yet too stretched out. You had areas that were way too wide open, on top of multiple different elevators, and as a result, this made backtracking really annoying. In MGS2, though, the big shell is a bunch of octagons in an octagon. So instead of wide, snowy areas, you get small bridges that do the same job, but have a special unique gimmick to them, and thankfully are way goddamn shorter. All this makes backtracking way less of a pain, as navigation is way more circular. And furthermore, the inside... Oh, of course, haven't been interrupted in a while.
Be careful, there are Claymore mines around there.
Really? Another Metal Gear Solid 1 thing? Except, funny enough, Raiden actually knows this one.
Just call me Deep Throat.
Deep Throat? You mean from Shadow Moses?
Mr. X then.
Mr. X now, is it? Why would it matter if I called you Deep Throat?
Never mind about that.
Okay, that's really weird. Plus, didn't Gray Fox die in the last game? Anyways, I'm getting off track. Back to the level design. So anyways, yeah, bridge better than snow. And furthermore, these inside struts in MGS2 are way more compact. This makes things more claustrophobic and intense, but also a lot easier to navigate. And each area is unique and interesting too. There's one area with a conveyor belt. There's one big area with a bunch of railings. There's a warehouse room filled with boxes. It's so much more streamlined, but never at the expense of any actual challenge. I think overall, Big Shell is a...
Jack, do you remember the day we met?
God damn it!
I'm kind of busy right now, Rose.
You're right, sorry.
No problem, Rose. We're just diffusing some C4. Our hands might be a...
I do remember. It was right after I transferred to New York.
Right and fucking kill yourself.
A group of middle-aged Japanese ladies came up and asked me which building it was that King Kong was climbing in the moon.
I do not give a shit.
You were like, no, it's the Empire State.
I said the Chrysler building was in Godzilla.
Is this a Metal Gear Solid or the fucking Notebook?
We argued all the way to Battery Park.
And for nothing.
Since the museum was closed.
Look, man, I enjoy a good romance in fiction, but this might be a little much.
And then I found you again by coincidence out in the base corridor.
An amazing coincidence that we were actually working at the same place.
You know, Metal Gear Solid 1 actually had a romance in it, but Metal Gear Solid 1 was also a stealth action game, and the romance of the story fit that. The characters and themes and romance were all narratively interwoven perfectly, and then you have this Nicholas Sparks novel.
That night we went up to the top of the Empire State.
It was so beautiful.
I wonder if they witnessed 9/11 together.
We watched King Kong in your apartment a bunch of times that night. Didn't sleep till morning.
God damn it. Okay, maybe that was a little cute.
I'm sorry, Jack. I'm taking up your time again.
What?
Take care.
Okay. What? Huh? What? So eventually we defuse the second to last bomb, and we call Stillman to let him know. But also bad news, Pliskin found a shit ton of more bombs, and these ones have no scent to them. So that sensor we've been using, useless for these new ones. So yeah, we're completely fucked. However, Stillman offers to disarm them himself, which obviously won't work too well since his leg—
I can walk just fine. I can even run.
Oh, of course. It turns out Stillman was lying the whole time. Not just to us, but to the entire world. So after failing a bomb defusal one day, which not only led to the explosion of a church, but also innocent children nearby getting killed, he faked the entire removal of his leg so he would look more noble, and so he could soften the blow of seeing the victims' families. But in the long term, his own guilt lingered on. And even though he taught Fat Man so much, he probably wasn't in the best place to be a role model at all, as he had a personal grudge against himself that he never truly got over. This is a man who, by the way, is in official bomb disposal books in this game, but being a notable legend doesn't absolve you of your problems, which that alone is an extension of the first game, which shows that it really is ideology that makes someone. But sometimes being a legend just makes the guilt worse, knowing you're living a lie. And that's further why Stillman feels he needs to stop Fat Man. He views this whole scenario as a kind of purgatory, a way to atone for his sins.
I can walk with my own 2 feet, and I need them to stop Fat Man. His crimes are also mine. One of omission and arrogance. No one should teach the skills I taught him without a clear conscience. This is the only way I can defuse my own sins.
However, our bombs are still a threat, so we'll finish up those while Stillman redeems himself. So we freeze the last C4 and we hit up Stillman, who also made us a brand new sensor, one that can detect the scentless C4s. So naturally, we grab it because, yeah, that's the game. But then Stillman suspects something. That there's one big giant C4 that'll blow up everything. It also has a countdown timer, but thankfully it won't go off unless the plot demands it.
Wait, Pliskin! Damn! That was it!
Well, shit. So we only got 400 seconds to defuse the bomb.
400 seconds?
So we gotta run all the way back to strut A, up the stairs, down the elevator, but then we get one more call from Stillman. And apparently, he fucked up, and Fat Man has officially out-bombed him. And with less than 30 seconds on his clock... Wow, what a tragic... Hey, the timer's still counting down, by the way. So we do what Stillman would want us to do, and we defuse the final last bomb.
Colonel, I've neutralized the bomb.
Good work, Raiden.
It was a great loss for everyone.
Yes, it was.
Huh, so we just had a guy blow up entirely, and is it just me or is Campbell a little emotional? Let's refocus here. We gotta save Joe Biden. So we go up the...
Raiden.
Oh my god, what the fuck? What? What?
So it turns out the terrorists are killing hostages now. But Raiden's objective is still to save the president. Except Raiden's like, fuck that, there are other people in danger.
Priority my butt.
Raiden then considers asking Pliskin for help, but Pliskin ain't picking up his phone. Also, Campbell's getting real weird about that.
That man was not included in the simulation. He is not a factor in this mission.
What do you mean by that, Colonel?
Anyways, bad news. On our way out, we encounter Fortune, and she is not happy to see us.
Show yourself and finish me. Like you finished off my father.
Oh, crap.
So Fortune is looking for the man who killed her father. The good news, though, is that it isn't us. Sadly, though, she's gonna kill us anyway.
My name is Fortune, lucky in war and nothing else. And without a death to call my own. Hurry. Kill me, please.
Now it's time for the boss fight against Fortune, which is pretty much just one big endurance test, as we obviously can't kill her. This is, however, a nice extension of how MGS1 told its story through its boss fight, and how weird shit will happen that'll build on the characters and narrative. Like, already this boss is kind of similar to the Gray Fox fight in MGS1.
Kill me now.
But it also has a few storytelling flourishes of its own. Like, look how small Fortune's health bar is. It kind of gives you the wrong message that you can kill her and it'll be relatively easy. But like the soldiers earlier in the game, you can't kill her at all. You have to just kind of dodge her railgun shots and wait it out. Then suddenly get a call from the Colonel. And turns out, Fat Man asked for us and wants to meet us on a heliport. So now we have only 400 more seconds, which magically pauses during this next cutscene. Where now suddenly Vamp's here. And turns out the whole bomb thing is not even really their idea. It's literally just only Fat Man. So he's just planting giant bombs without anyone's permission. And Jesus, the fuck kind of guy is this? So Vamp's right about to take care of us on his own. That is until Raiden uses Fortune's fortune against her, shooting a bullet that ends up hitting Vamp in the head instead.
Now!
We then get an entire segment where Fortune mourns the death of Vamp.
No, that death was meant for me.
And if you think about it, this is some really heart-wrenching shit, actually. Like, due to her being immortal, her losing people and not dying is just a cycle to her. So her being nihilistic actually makes a lot of unfortunate sense, as she'll have to go through infinite trauma that'll never come to peace.
How long will you force me to live? How much longer, Dad? You've punished me enough. I thought you could give me peace. But you couldn't kill me either.
This allows Raiden to kind of get away awkwardly, but thankfully for her, and not so thankfully for us, Vamp's alive.
There's no need for sorrow, Queen.
Because here's a reminder, the character's a vampire, and we're playing a Metal Gear Solid 2. I do want to say, though, I legitimately find the character of Fortune so fascinating. She's a giant, unfortunate walking monkey's paw, and the more she lives, the more trauma she'll have to endure, which is powerful stuff, judging that this is indeed a game where— oh yeah, there's a bomb counting down! So we make it up to the helipad, where we find the last C4 bomb, where at long last we're about to encounter Fat Man, who, aside from the leader of the group, is the one guy we haven't really seen yet. This This is a guy who's apparently totally unhinged and yet morally just absent. He's a man so skilled yet completely psychotic. And from his name and profile, he just seems so vile. But of course, again, we know next to nothing about him. And yet right here, we're about to encounter him face to face. Just to warn you, this could be one of the most depraved people in the... What the what?
Bombs tell the time with every moment of their existence, and nothing else announces its own end with such a fanfare.
Oh my god, what? Okay, so I was fine with the Mario Sunshine guy, okay? I was also fine with the whole arm possession thing, you know? And then we got to the bisexual vampire. Okay, a little questionable. And then we had my girlfriend calling me 24/7, which, okay, really annoying, but nothing really set me up for the fat guy on roller skates who drinks wine and loves bombs and who talks in a silly, goofy, voice.
If you prefer to stay in one piece, you'll have to disable my bombs. Laugh and grow fat.
What the fuck is this shit? It gets even funnier because his boss fight, which involves fighting him while also disarming his bombs, is pretty much one playable Tom and Jerry cartoon with guns. Okay, so I'm gonna try to analyze this character. Just humor me, please. So in the cutscene before the fight, Fat Man explains why he wants to bomb the whole place. And simply put, it's because he wants to be the most famous bomber of all time. And he does not care if he's written down as a monster in the history books. So literally, it's kinda like a school shooter.
No one's gonna give a damn about you.
Oh yes, they will. I'll go down in history.
This is in contrast to Peter Stillman, who is remembered in history, but he's guilty that he's remembered for a literal lie. And his actual death is unceremonious and pretty glossed over. Meanwhile, as goofy as Fat Man is, I think Kojima tapped into a weird, kinda realistic spot. Fat Man is such a weird, over-the-top, goofy character, in a way where it's really hard to take him seriously, even though by actions alone, he should be remembered as one of history's great monsters, which is pretty much exactly what he wants.
I die here and start my legend. Too bad you won't be around to see the movies.
Weirdly enough, it reminds me of that What Pretending to Be Crazy Looks Like YouTube video. A video that analyzed and broke down the interrogation of the Parkland shooter Nicholas Cruz. And a video that turned a man who shot up a high school and killed 17 people into a complete fucking joke. And not because the video was funny, but rather because Nicholas Cruz is a fucking idiot. His horrible atrocities didn't stop him from being completely laughed at like he should. Being forever remembered as a joke is one of the worst ways you can go down. And similarly, when we defeat Fat Man, how do we remember him? As a great, dangerous, horrifying bomber? Or the goofy fucking vaudeville act on roller skates? Of course, in the game's universe, we stop him before he can be remembered. But outside of that, in a very meta way, we the player remember him for reasons he probably didn't want to be remembered for.
You're nothing but a common criminal, and that's the only way people will ever remember you.
Oh, damn you! I'm an op!
Oh, also, something else to establish. So like Metal Gear Solid 1, I'm sure you're seeing where MGS2 might be going. So MGS1 was about genes versus ideology, right? With the game's answer to that being, of course, ideology. It's not the genes that make you, but rather who you are that makes you. This is shown because the bad guy obsessed with genes is British, and British is evil. However, in MGS2, now the game is purely about ideology. Or rather, what do you believe in, and is that worth remembering? For example, even though Stillman was living a lie, is he worth remembering? Fat Man, meanwhile, wants to be remembered, but obviously he failed at that. And the Vega people in Fortune's life are all remembered by her, which sadly the trauma surrounding them has led to her becoming nihilistic. So even though there's a lot of weirdness to this game going on, there's clearly something intentional about it, as if it is indeed building up to something. Speaking of which, you may have noticed by now, you don't play as Snake at all for the rest of the game. That's right, we're stuck with Raiden, which is interesting because he wasn't marketed at all. This was, of course, extremely controversial of a change, and really isn't helped by all the random callbacks to MGS1. Callbacks that, by the way, are still going on, as after killing Fat Man and defusing his one final bomb that's right underneath him, we're suddenly encountered by Gray Fox. But he's fucking dead. Also, Gray Fox wasn't Russian.
Unlike you, I have no name.
The good news, though, is that he is here to help us, as he tells us where Ames is, a Secret Service agent held a hostage who knows who the president is. He also hands us a nice little disguise, so we can sneak into the Shell 1 core where all the hostages are. But we'll need the right gun, though, too. Also, by the way, Big Shell isn't actually a cleanup plant or an oil rig at all, but rather a cover-up for, we'll take a wild guess.
Cover-up? But why? For what?
For Metal Gear.
Well, imagine my shock
Gray Fox then suddenly disappears. And the Colonel, of course, has no idea about Metal Gear. But of course, we have zero time to question anything. So we grab the gun we need and book it to Shell 1's core. Thankfully, though, we're
Got a minute, Jack?
My God, what now?
I found some information on where Solid Snake is interred.
Oh, never mind then. We actually need that. Although, bad news, Solid Snake apparently has an autopsy report. Which we know is bullshit because of Pliskin. Let's not kid ourselves. But to Raiden's knowledge, Snake is dead. And of course, this means the leader of the terrorists is not Solid Snake. Much to Raiden's disappointment.
You sound disappointed.
I guess I was kind of hoping to meet the legend in the flesh.
But our priority is still on Ames. And you know what? Fuck it. Let's save our game too. This is the part where I drag you all to hell with me.
Jack, how's the mission going?
Fine.
Fine? Is that it?
Yeah, your least favorite
then
subject.
Go ahead and say something.
Now we're talking about me, not you.
About what you were like as a child.
Jack, that I don't like anything about my own boyfriend. More so than every time I want to talk about something.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
There must be some things you don't want to say.
Like what?
You know, those things you don't want to say.
Please get a couples therapy. I'm begging you.
So, have you decided to talk yet?
Nope.
Yeah, no, I fucking wish. Okay, I'm actually done fucking around though, so we get to the hostage room and shit. And TLDR, we find that Ames guy. And we did so by finding his pacemaker, which is important by the way. Who apparently isn't a secret service, but...
No, I was set in by the Lali Lule Lo, just like you.
What? Yeah, what the fuck is the Goo Goo Gaga Lay Low?
What?
Well, whatever the case, we get a codec call to save on cutscene budget. And yep, again, there's a Metal Gear here. Nothing unusual here, except there is, because everything was planned. Oh, hey, look, it's the big bad guy who's here. Oh, look, it's Revolver Ocelot and Olga, the girl from the beginning of the game. And turns out the villains want to take over Manhattan.
What they plan to do is liberate Manhattan. Pull it offline and turn it into some kind of a republic. Hence, Sons of Liberty, I suppose.
And oh shit, Ocelot's here. And bad news, he's getting suspicious about us. And he also knows that Ames isn't Secret Service either. And he's about to kill him, but then...
What the? You tricked me. I understand now. Ocelot,
He suddenly drops dead to the ground, meaning someone was controlling his pacemaker. And yes, this is yet another callback to MGS1, which is really weird. There are things in this game that are genuine evolutions of the first game's themes, but then on the other hand, you have just loads of lazy Force Awakens styled callbacks. But it's inconsistent in a really weird way. I can't describe it. Anyways, Ocelot then refocuses on us, and more bad news, we're unmasked right in front of him. And he's about to kill us, but then not Gray Fox comes in. This is when Ocelot is just as confused and lost as we are.
But you die.
Dude, what the fuck is going on?
So we book it out of there and make it to time to save our game.
Why are you going out with me?
Huh?
Jack, would you love me if I were a worm?
Sometimes it really does bother me. Sometimes I think all you want is a pretty face.
So we make it to this bridge, but it's loaded with C4. And some of the control panels are too far away for us to shoot at. So we gotta backtrack to get a sniper rifle like in the first game. Although again, backtracking is way better in this game, so we ain't tripping. We then disable the explosives and Pliskin calls us. We send it back our way in his helicopter. By the way, turns out Pliskin has a partner he's been working with. And of course, we all know who it is.
Raiden, let me introduce you to my partner, Otacon.
Otacon?
Hey, Raiden. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, Pliskin totally isn't Snake, guys. Sadly, though, the greetings will have to wait.
Damn! Raiden, I'll talk to you later.
Raiden then immediately calls Campbell and realizes something is up here.
It keeps coming back to Shadow Moses. And now this Otacon.
Which is when we get information we kind of already know. Like how Snake and Otacon joined an anti-Metal Gear organization. And how because of that and the tanker incident, they're considered terrorists.
Snake and his partner aren't terrorists.
Jack, why are you defending them?
Because I'm based and red-pilled, Rose. Although I will say, right here is the beginning of Raiden's big character arc. Even if what he's thinking about is just the kind of what Metal Gear Solid 1 was about.
I look back on what I've done here so far, and things like training and sense of duty alone won't get you through a sneaking mission like this.
Jack, are you okay?
You need something higher. I can't think of the right word, but it has to be pure will, backed up by courage, or ideals, or something like that.
So anyways, Pliskin arrives in his brand new helicopter. Except he's not the only one here with us, as we see a mysterious man with a giant black cloak. This right here is the leader of Dead Cell, the man claiming to be Solid Snake, which of course is where we get the funny meme line.
I'm the boss to surpass Big Boss himself. Solid Snake. No, that is not Solid Snake.
He said it! And at this point, the last member we know next to nothing about. Although, there are some things we do know. For one thing, it's revealed earlier that Dead Cell was started by ex-president George Sears. Also, the current president is kidnapped by Dead Cell. And also, Ocelot was working with the president. And also, at the end of MGS1 in the after-credits scene, it's revealed that the president there was actually the third Snake brother, Solidus. And that means the leader of Dead Cell is not only the ex-president, but he's...
Brother, I'm a whole different game from Liquid.
The villain of Metal Gear Solid 2 and the third Snake brother is the ex-president of the United States. Also, he does this. You know, I think this speaks for itself, honestly. But I just love how Solidus is built up. You kind of already get an idea of what's going on, but Solidus just makes such an impression on you. And in my opinion, he's really underrated. I'm shocked people don't talk about him more. People often praise Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising for being the funny meme congressman villain. But once you peel that character back, he's kind of just one big Solidus Snake ripoff. Which goes to show how fun yet interesting of a character Solidus is. But of course, he's also kind of in our way right now. So Snake tries shooting at him, but it's no use. As Solidus then jumps onto a fighter jet piloted by Vamp. So let me process this. I'm seeing the former president, who is the third Snake brother, who has a DeviantArt muscle inflation suit, standing on an active fighter jet piloted by a bisexual vampire. You see, there's peak fiction, and then there's Metal Gear Solid 2. It kind of makes the boss fight a little underwhelming, as the boss itself is pretty much just the Hind D fight from MGS1. Except now, Solid Snake's here to toss us ammo and shit. It's still a really fun boss though, I won't lie. So anyways, with Snake's help, we take him out. We even make him lose his eye too. Yikes. Except bad news, Solidus is saved by a giant goddamn Metal Gear.
That's Metal Gear! It's already active!
And like that, the bad guys get away. The Snake then checks in on us. And yeah, in case there was any doubt, it's confirmed here that it is Snake. And Raiden starts nerding out. But of course, we all know how Snake is when it comes to that shit.
Snake, you're a legend.
Legend? A legend is nothing but fiction. Someone tells it, someone else remembers. Everybody passes it on.
I do enjoy how Snake is written here in this scene. You really do get a sense that Snake grew from the first game, but at heart, he's still Snake, rejecting the ideas of being a war hero or a legend. But his rejection of being a legend is less him being nihilistic and more just him being chill and humble this time around. This is just overall great characterization. Also, remember Solid Snake's body from the autopsy report? Yeah, no, that was Liquid Snake's body. So there you have it, mystery over. Raiden then asks about philanthropy, the whole anti-Metal Gear thing, which goes into Snake and Nauticon talking about their worldview philosophies, which leads into this one exchange that I really enjoy here.
We need to remember, to spread the word, to fight for change, and that's what keeps me alive.
You think you can change the future?
Nah, I'm not as arrogant as that.
Damn, that's fucking real, dude. Also, remember Emma Emmerich from the very beginning of the game?
No.
Well, but turns out Otacon's with us because Emma Emmerich is on this big show. Raiden then hangs up and calls,
Jack, are you alright?
Oh, goody.
You almost gave me a heart attack.
Sorry, it wasn't intentional.
Room for one more?
So Raiden tells Campbell the news, who doesn't really care that much, who keeps telling Raiden to rescue the president. Raiden then brings up Snake, but Campbell is still not trustworthy of him. And Campbell's response doesn't make any sense, doubling down that it still might not be Snake, and Raiden didn't train for it in the simulation either. And naturally, Raiden gets kind of fed up with this bullshit.
Because they were never a part of the simulation. They're an unknown factor.
You can take your simulation and... we're out here, we bleed, we die.
This causes Raiden to get a bit more personal with Campbell, which on that note, for those who already know what this game has in store, you probably know how crazy it gets from here. However, if I can pinpoint an exact moment where MGS2 begins this downward spiral, more than likely it's right here.
Colonel, you and Snake used to be on the same side. I don't understand. I read about you and Snake in the Darkness of Shadow Moses.
I don't give a damn what that piece of trash said. Do you get me?
Damn, Campbell really hates Snake now. I wonder why. What could have happened since then? Also, why has Campbell been so distant throughout the whole game? It almost feels like he's out of character, like some kind of fan fiction. Thankfully, MGS2 doesn't get quite to that level, because if it did, it would do things like lazy callbacks to the original that are just spray painted around the game. Well, I mean, come on. It doesn't get that bad until they start reusing lines from the first game. But come on, that can't be the case. I mean, Raiden's the complete opposite of a Gary Stu, right? A guy who thinks he's qualified through VR missions, but isn't qualified whatsoever. Just a complete bumbling idiot. So he's not a Gary Stu at all. In fact, he's too much of the opposite, even though he used the name Snake in the beginning as if that's the point. And wait a minute, what was that thing he said earlier?
I read about you and Snake in the Darkness of Shadow Moses.
So this is actually an in-universe book you can read, written by Nastasha Romanenko, that one Russian character that I mentioned once in the original video, who also is revealed in an optional codec call to be the ex-wife of Richard Ames, the guy from earlier.
You know, I thought I heard of Ames somewhere before. DIA would mean we're talking about Nastasha's ex-husband.
Nastasha Romanenko? Isn't she the one who wrote In the Darkness of Shadow Moses?
Yeah, she helped me out during the Shadow Moses incident.
So, you know, small world. But this is kind of an in-universe excuse for something else to happen. For Raiden to become something of a fan of the events of the first game. But I mean, Raiden being a self-insert fan character is way too far-fetched until you realize that one of the first things you do in the game is go to your first node and input your real name. But one of the most obvious tropes in fan fictions is the forced romance. Some kind of corny, almost out-of-genre love interest. One that oftentimes takes away from the interesting parts of a universe. Like how gay Star Trek fan fiction will take away from how good the 2013 game is.
Sorry?
Now, to be fair, something like this would be too on the nose.
Jack, do you remember the day we met?
There's no fucking way. Did Kojima accidentally write an anti-fanfiction? It has to be, right? There's just so many weird creative decisions. Ones that by all means should narratively be awful choices. But yet, I feel like the game might be staring back. Still gotta go through the rest of the game, so let's mosey on this destroyed rubble to Shell 1, where we can get pissed on because this is a Metal Gear Solid game. Oh, by the way, this is where you can find out that Vamp is bisexual.
So that's why they call him Vamp.
No, Vamp isn't for vampire, it's because he's bisexual.
Bisexual! Also, something else you find out here, Fortune's father is a man named Scott Dolph, aka the Marine guy from the beginning of the game. So in other words, the guy Fortune's been looking for, the guy she blames her father's death on, is Solid Snake. Also, something else funny about Fortune and Scott Dolph, Vamp apparently fucked both of them.
Rumor has it, Vamp was the lover of Scott Dolph.
Fortune's old man? But Fortune and Vamp?
You noticed, eh? Not bad for a rookie.
Right.
As you say, Vamp and Fortune are very close. Not lovers, but very close.
Friends?
No, there's more to their relationship than that.
But Vamp was her father's lover.
Would it have been better if it was with her mother?
Well,
I don't really think they care what you think. Scott Dolph.
I'm begging you.
So one lack of tone and a brief Olga run-in later, which literally just involves us hiding behind a wall. We're now one step away from saving the president. But first we gotta shut off an electrical floor, which involves us grabbing a remote control missile and blowing up a giant electrical box like the first game again. Which, by the way, right beforehand, the colonel literally says this.
Remember the Shadow Moses VR training.
So yeah, Raiden being a fan character is not even really subtle anymore.
You are not good enough for my daughter, and I don't want you around her. End of story.
Simulacra and Simulation is a book written by the French philosopher Jean Baudrillard.
So anyways, you blow up the thing and make it to the president, who seems very nonchalant about being kidnapped, and he also grabs our balls.
I'm prepared to face the consequences of my betrayal.
What are you...
What the...
You're a man?
I don't know what Kojima meant by that. So we switch over to Codec to save on cutscene budgets. And turns out the president was working with the terrorists. Except due to some kind of disagreement, he's now not working with them. And that's apparently why he's their hostage. But wait a minute, why was the president working with the terrorists? Well, according to him, he wanted power. And before you wonder why the president of the US would want even more power, well, there's actually an answer.
I wanted absolute power.
But you're the president. You have power.
No, I'm just a figurehead.
So you might have noticed the characters have been referring to a thing called the Patriots, also known as the Lolly Lule Lo. Well, the president finally tells Raiden who they are, and they're essentially the Illuminati, which might of course sound funny when I say it like that, but MGS2 might have one of the most horrifying portrayals of a shadow government that I've ever seen.
I'm not surprised you've never heard of them. Very few are aware of their existence, even among those with code word clearance.
Say what you want about Kojima's often wordy dialogue, but it really is effective here. With just how much of a massive rabbit hole this all is. It's like watching a YouTube video on conspiracy theories and/or government corruption. The feeling of life-changing information just being tossed onto you. And it really doesn't help that Raiden starts low-key panicking finding all this truth out. Especially when you find out what the Patriots actually control.
Politics, the military, the economy. They control it all. They even choose who becomes president. Putting it simply, the Patriots rule this country.
No.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's the truth.
But that would mean that the presidential race was...
That was quite a show, wasn't it? It was a well-scripted drama staged by the Patriots for the benefit of the public.
There's almost an otherworldly way the president explains them, but I'm also forced to imagine something I can't really fully comprehend.
The Patriots. Even I don't know who the actual members are. All I've been told is that every key decision is made by a group of 12 men, known as the Wise Men's Committee.
This, to me, is the kind of oppressive sovereignty that I find terrifying. The Patriots have the mystery that can only be rivaled by God the Father, and yet they control you by making you think you're free. And in fact, politically speaking, this scene gets even more eerie as it gets, really close to reality.
It's all a show. Democracy is just a filler for textbooks. Think about it. Do you actually believe that public opinion influences the government?
No.
This country is shaped and controlled as the Patriots see fit. The people are shown what they want to believe. What you call government is actually a well-staged production aimed at satisfying the public.
Now, of course, this is a work of fiction, and I don't think the Illuminati is real, maybe. With that being said, though, has the US government lied before? And/or have there been US services that are completely corrupt? And more importantly, does public opinion not actually influence the government whatsoever? And if not for America, have we seen all this in other democratic countries? The answer to all of those is at least a very strong yes. I won't mention anything specific, but you can probably connect a few dots here and there. Anyway, so the president wanted to be a patriot himself, but working with Solidus was a bad idea, as Solidus wants to challenge them head on.
I wished to be a member of the Patriots. I wanted to wield the power of a king instead of being an expendable pawn. But I underestimated Solidus. He actually wants to challenge the Patriots.
He also further elaborates how the Patriots are needed in this country, and he actually gives a real convincing argument.
Picture a massive political vacuum, a space that every powermonger will try to fill for their own greedy ends. I'm talking about an unregulated power struggle, panic, civil war, chaos. Like it or not, the Patriots is an organization that must continue to exist.
He then goes into Solidus Snake as a character, and reveals that he's the one who conducted the entire Shadow Moses incident from the first game, which is what caused the Patriots to go, yeah, no thanks, you're out of our favor. Covering his presidential exit as a resignation. Yeah, right, and Jeffrey Epstein did.
This post was fact-checked as false by Real American Patriot.
President Johnson then also explains that he intended to use Metal Gear as kind of a sweetening the deal, his entryway to joining the Patriots. But not Metal Gear Ray, no, a new Metal Gear. One that's been hiding under our noses the entire time, because we've been standing in it this whole game. Yeah, that's right, this whole big shell is just a disguise for a new Metal Gear. Except it's not just a Metal Gear, nor is it a robot anymore. It's instead a new thing called Arsenal Gear. It's a giant warship fortress thing that can house house like 25 Metal Gear raids. It's essentially a nuclear Metal Gear garage, but it's also more than that, as it can also change digital information. Essentially, it can control the internet.
The Arsenal plans include a system to digitally manage the flow of information, making it possible to shape the truth for their own purposes.
And this is because the Patriots are afraid of the internet. A large, vast quantity of information being released at a rapid pace. Now, this game came out in 2001, so a lot of this is very abstract, but it's also horrifyingly prophetic and accurate to what happens today, as information comes out 24/7 before anyone has time to even process it.
They fear an overabundance of digital information. The world will drown in the coming flood of information, and they along with it.
And the system that allows Arsenal to do this is called GW. And our new role is to stop it. So we gotta find Emma Emmerich and give her a virus. And that's seemingly it. That is until the president instructs us to kill him.
Now, kill me.
What the?
As he attempts to use our own gun to assassinate him, alluding to the whole idea that this is our role. Again, this whole time, everything is our role to do. But anyways, conveniently, Ocelot then shoots the president himself, and they just kind of heads out of there. But on the topic of Raiden not actually having any control over anything, the president, before he dies, has some very interesting last words.
Without free will, there is no difference between submission and rebellion.
Despite this, though, he still tells us to stop Arsenal, which after dying is our new directive given by our Colonel. And of course, conveniently, he knows nothing about anything at all. Hey, Colonel, why are you saving a furry pornography on your computer?
I don't have the security clearance necessary to verify the facts.
This post was fact-checked as false by Real American.
Also, side note, there is a reason behind the Lolly Lule Lo name. So, Hideo Kojima is Japanese, right? Well, in Japanese, there's no consonant for L. So the sound L, as in la twin, la blinky, la binky, is a sound that's very difficult for native Japanese speakers to pronunciate.
I love games. I love this world. I really love you all from my heart.
Did you like it?
So to a Japanese player, Lolly Lule Lo would be near incomprehensible. Imagine that, a shadow government with a codename you can't even pronounce. Also, this lack of L's in the Japanese vernacular is also why Kojima has never taken an L ever. Anyway, so after all that massive bombshell shit, we gotta find Emma Emmerich now. The snake then also explains the events of the beginning of the game, and we're off to save our game and talk to Rose again. Fuck you all!
Jack,
What is it?
I've always been alone.
Huh?
I'm so lonely.
Okay, but this call specifically is important to Raiden's character, actually. Again, from this point on, the game starts breaking Raiden down. And right here is when you truly realize just how emotionally distant Raiden is.
You've never slept beside me.
What are you talking about?
After we've been together in my room, you stay awake all night, or you head for the door.
I can't relax when I'm with someone.
Jack, you wouldn't even let me in your room.
I need privacy. I just can't be bothered.
Bothered?
Not only that, but Raiden also lacks any kind of real personality. And that's not a character flaw, that's a character trait. Because this extends to the way this character is outside of the game's story. And Rose tells us exactly why that is.
Do you remember that time I forced my way into your room? We'd known each other for almost a year, and you blew up. It was the first time you ever raised your hand against me. I was so worried about you.
So first off, obviously, yes, Raiden is kind of a bad boyfriend, but then the conversation goes on.
Look, I'm sorry.
It wasn't your violent nature that scared me. It was your room, your heart.
Stop it.
There wasn't anything in your room. Only a bed and a small desk. It looked like a prison cell.
And that right there is why this scene and Rose are so important. Again, assuming Raiden is kind of a self-insert fan character of sorts, one who is at least subconsciously trying to relive the power fantasy of being Solid Snake, right here's when we realize that Raiden really doesn't have much of a personality of his own. His identity is too ingrained on the mission. It's much like someone who uses art as a kind of escape from their reality. But then, as a result, what kind of identity do you have?
No television set. No family pictures. Not even a poster.
Rose, I only use that room for sleeping.
A lifeless room. almost like your empty heart.
Now, I know I've been shitting on Rose this whole video, and part of it is kind of a joke, but Rose is, at least to me, a symbol of a real, actual life. That's why Rose is so dramatic and intrusive. If Raiden is meant to be the player, meaning you, then Rose is the player's real-life responsibility. I can make fun of Rose all I want, but that's also kind of the point the game's trying to make. Rose is an annoying character that breaks the fantasy, because she is a human being. She's reality. She is a stark contrast from Meryl in the first game, who, while a very strong character, did end up being kind of the damsel in distress at the end. Rose, meanwhile, feels like a very real human character in contrast. Someone who simulates a real romantic partner, partially because she actually was influenced by a real romantic partner. You know that whole "what day is it tomorrow" thing? Well, that was actually lifted from Hideo Kojima's wife.
この日に、結婚前だったんですけども、今の奥さんとですね、最初に会った日に、デートの約束をしてまして。
It's again this blurring of the line between fantasy and reality that is the point of MGS2, or at least one of the many, many, many points we'll see throughout the adventure. That's right, incels. To have a girlfriend, you gotta actually be a good person.
This post was fact-checked as true by Real American Pair.
Enough, Rose. We'll talk about this later. After the mission.
Right. After the mission. I understand.
And just like that, we're back to the game. And more importantly, some really goddamn awful swimming mechanics. But after enduring that shit, we encounter Vamp, and he's guarding the way to Emma Emmerich. He also reveals that Dead Cell was framed for a giant travesty a long time ago, and that's their whole motive. But I'm gonna be honest, Vamp might be the least interesting character in the whole game, so I can't really feel too much when we kick his ass in the boss fight. So after beating him, we find Emma in a locker, just like her brother in the first game. She also pisses herself, thank you, Kojima. And at long last, we meet Emma Emmerich, Otacon's stepsister. And her character is quite literally Otacon, but woman. And also, she really hates water, even though the whole place is flooding.
We have to get out of here.
No! I hate water!
Yeah, no, great first impression. Look, okay, Emma Emmerich is not my favorite character in this. In fact, she's probably like the most autistic character in Metal Gear ever. And fuck you, that's why I love her. She's adorable. This is an Emma Emmerich household, and we will stan her. And thankfully, we convinced her to hold on to us, as we, the player, have to suffer through the game's goddamn swimming. We then take a little break to connect with her. And connect we do because Emma reminisces on her time with Otacon. Now, Otacon does mean a lot to Emma, but she's also mad at him because for some reason, Otacon just left the whole family. But despite that, he means so much to her that she even starts just wearing glasses because of him.
My brother didn't have any close friends, so he used to take care of me.
This is when things get,
We both wanted to be loved so much. So much that we used to pretend. Yeah, we used to play house. My brother was the husband and I was the wife.
Yeah, buddy? Anyways, turns out Emma's involved in the Metal Gear shit because she wants revenge on Hal.
I wanted to hurt you. I wanted to see you suffer.
E.E.?
You abandoned me.
No, that's not what happened.
But enough of all that, it's now time for the worst part of the game, which is the Emma Emmerich escort mission, where she's afraid of bugs, so you have to spray them with the coolant shit, and you have to constantly hold her hand while you both move slower than Sonic Labyrinth's run speed. A lot of people hate this part, and I agree, it really ain't good at all. But there is one thing that is important, and that's Emma explaining what exactly GW is. So Emma knows about the Patriots, but not enough to really put into words. However, if it wasn't clear enough, the plan is to completely censor the internet in a way that is shockingly and horrifyingly eerie to our times now.
Well, in this day and age, information emerges from every direction and is freely distributed. A variety of information gathered by servers employing the latest in high-speed communication networks and P2P technology is rapidly circulated to individuals. In fact, the speed of this circulation process is accelerating on an almost daily basis. The Patriots seem to be afraid of this development. Apparently, they believe that their role will shift from dominant to dominated.
And again, this is horrifying because this is actually true. Classified information from giant superpowers can be shared anywhere, which then gets spread around like goddamn wildfire.
Now, look at it like this. Political scandal, corporate corruption, up until now, the Patriots have managed to keep a lid on these and other self-serving events. But with their existing data processing system, they're no longer able to effectively control the flow of information generated at the individual level.
But again, the Patriots plan to combat this with a thing called GW. But now we finally understand the extent of that, because GW, turns out, is one big neural AI that can control everything digital, including a very subtly and convincingly changing scientific reports, and in an optional conversation with Rose can even change mundane things like what movies are popular.
I mean, think about the kinds of film and bands everyone wants to go to see. It's whatever's at the top of the charts.
And if the charts are made up...
Exactly.
So, in other words, it's George Orwell's book, 1984.
So what we're talking about is one huge censorship system for deleting information which might be inconvenient to the Patriots.
Exactly. By deleting such information, the Patriots can shape the course of history as they see fit.
However, the actual thing that executes all this exists, quote-unquote, within our social structure. Now, in the game, due to Y2K, it was 2001, the government put a program that activated the AI onto every single version of Microsoft Windows.
A new version of Windows that brings your PC to life. Experience the best. Experience these.
Now, of course, this is pretty easily avoidable by not buying Windows Vista. So it's pretty easy to avoid this unless you were, you know, required digitally to update your operating system. But come on, that's ridiculous. The US doesn't have to do that. Instead, just ban apps entirely and force people to use US mandated ones. We can't have other countries spying on you. That's our job.
We're not spying on your calls.
You know what I want.
I know, but I want to hear you say
Barack Obama!
Yo, Pierre, you wanna come out?
Where's it out of here? The Chicago.
Now again, Metal Gear Solid 2 is a piece of fiction. But with that being said, it's a really damn prophetic one. One that eerily predicts a reality we might just be headed towards. This, in my opinion, is an exposition dump done right because it's sheerly terrifying. How can you stop something you can't even fully comprehend? That's 5 steps ahead of you. One that has been controlling both what you and your peers have known for years, before you could even comprehend it.
Is that why Solidus wants to burn out every electrical circuit in Manhattan with a nuclear blast?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. So after going through the greatest segment in all of gaming, we make it down to this absolutely beautiful bottom of the shell. Sadly though for Emma, she's gonna have to cross the whole ocean.
What if I fall into the sea? I can't swim.
What a shame.
We then get a whole segment where we cover her with sniper fire, taking out claymores and enemies. This segment's pretty slow to be honest, but we can call in Snake for backup, which honestly, fighting with him, kinda badass. But of course, Vamp shows up. It's never that easy. And there's only one thing Raiden can do, which is take the damn shot. Except bad news, Emma's been stabbed and is losing a shit ton of blood.
What a rotten way to die.
So Snake carries her away and we rush over to their location. And we make it, but things are looking pretty dire right now. But we do have the anti-ChatGPT virus. Although bad news, the installation gets cut off at 90%.
Damn, the connection's been cut.
Is the virus upload complete?
I don't think so. The count stopped at 90%.
Emma then wakes up, but sadly she's bleeding out fast. But Otacon tells her that everything will be okay. And the two of them get one last bit of closure.
I always...
What is it?
Wanted to see you again.
You see, Emma's anger towards Hal was more so kind of projection. She never really hated him, but just wanted to grow closer with him.
You don't hate me?
Never. I never wanted to get in your way. I never wanted to hurt you.
Now, to analyze Emma, I think there is a metatextual reason she's a gender-bent Otacon. Like so many other things from the first game, Emma is something that is taken from the first game but removed of its identity. But Emma is someone who looks up to Otacon very highly. Her identity is rooted in the original Otacon character, to the point where she's wearing fake glasses for him. Essentially, she's to Otacon's character what Raiden is to Snake's character. But once Otacon to acknowledge her individuality.
I thought that with Arsenal, if I followed in your footsteps, I could be closer. I just wanted you to look at me. Look at me as this woman.
And I want to talk about that for a minute. In Metal Gear Solid 1, all the characters felt tied to their genes, to their families. But in Metal Gear Solid 2, characters feel tied to something else. And that thing is their identity and their legacy. Peter Stillman had the legacy of a legendary hero, but the legend was fabricated, and as a result, so was his identity. The Fat Man wanted to leave behind a legacy, and he had a whole entire identity to go along with it. But he himself doesn't leave behind anything at all. President Johnson wanted to leave his mark in history, but he was too much of a pawn for the powers that be to form his own identity, turning a powerful figure like the president into just another brick in the wall. Fortune rejects legacy and identity altogether. Her identity is her grief, and that makes her really nihilistic as a character, and her existence as an invulnerable character is very hollow. Emma, meanwhile, is very similar. She has an identity, but it's not really her own. Notice how the way she's introduced is literally MGS1 fan service. But as she dies, she removes Otacon's glasses with her fake ones in her hand, as well as asking Otacon to call her Emma instead of EE, symbolizing a last-minute transition to her own identity. This is where we get Otacon's posthumous monologue.
I had a relationship with your mother.
Wait, what the fuck? Okay, so now we just have actual incest.
My father's death was no accident. He took his own life.
By the way, Metal Gear fun fact side note. Fuck Otacon's dad! Fuck this guy! Well, I guess it is true. It really isn't your genes that make you. Although all this makes Otacon's grieving way more depressing. Although it does make Snake motivating him a lot more badass.
You mean I'd only get in your way?
Wrong. Only you can save those hostages. Got it?
This builds up to the hardest shot I've ever seen. Holy fuck, dude. Although Otacon does start grieving again.
How?
EE?
Damn! Otacon.
Snake then motivates Otacon again to save the hostages, where we get a scene that's somehow even harder? Although there is one more scene with Otacon, and it's probably one of my favorites in the whole game. So Emma has a parrot, one that keeps repeating, "Hal, I miss you," causing Otacon to fall on his knees and start crying uncontrollably. So Otacon is a very lonely character who wants to be loved. There's the whole Sniper Wolf thing in MGS1 where he had a one-sided crush on her, and there's the very weird playing a house thing with Emma, although it is just make-believe, trust me. And Emma is much the same way, which is where I want to talk about Otacon's love monologue. One of my favorite moments in this game, and a very underrated one too.
Both you and I, we were always alone. Always. We only wanted to be loved. We were always waiting. Waiting for somebody.
Now, I know a lot of this is weird, but trust me, it is just an escape. Emma and Otacon were escaping because they wanted to feel love. In other words, it's symbolizing escapism. People escaping to fictional worlds to cope with their real problems and insecurities. And what a fitting character, too, as Otacon is literally a giant weeaboo. But escaping to anything really only just makes you lose your identity. And in reality, it's you who has to find love yourself.
But we were wrong. You can't wait to be loved. You have to go out and find it. 4 years ago, I realized that you can't just wish for a happy family. You have to make it happen. I only wish I knew that sooner.
I can't tell you how kind of eye-opening this scene was for me, and just how relevant it all is. Love is something you have to look for and maintain. Everybody around you is their own individual human being, and that includes the people you love the most. You can't expect love to happen to you, you have to find it. This was important for me to hear when I played the game. Without getting too personal, there was a point in my life where I was just kind of a shut-in, where I really desperately wanted to be loved, but I didn't want to make any actual outside connections. I was too scared to. And as a result, I looked to movies and games and other art forms for some kind of a how-to guide. It sounds silly now, but this was a real isolating problem for me. And like Emma herself, I began losing my own sense of identity. I won't act like I have everything figured out, but this was a big wake-up call for me to start a first step. To, regardless of anything before or after, to find real human connections. View people for their own individuality. And that, right there, is how I can learn to love again.
I learned that I could love. as you probably did, Emma.
Anyways, back to Raiden and Snake. Oh yeah, they're in this game. Oh yeah, and Gray Fox is, wait a minute, that's Olga the whole time? Yeah, the cyborg ninja was Olga from the beginning. And Snake's betraying us too? What the hell?
You're changing sides now? Change sides? I don't recall saying I was on yours.
Anyways, Olga then knocks out Raiden.
Jack, are you reading me? Do you want to save your mission data up to this point? Your mission data's been saved.
We wake up on a torture bed like Metal Gear Solid 1, right in front of Ocelot and Solidus. And what's even worse, we're fucking naked.
Good grief, he's naked! This is my son.
Wait, he's your what now? Okay, well, not actually. He's just a, child soldier who was kind of adopted by Solidus Snake during the Liberian Civil War and is responsible for a bunch of atrocities at 10 years old.
At the time, your outstanding kill record earned you several nicknames, including White Devil and Jack the Ripper.
Also, nice child soldier squadron named Solidus, small boy unit.
I heard that you a pedophile, you touch little boys and girls.
Not only that, but it's the Patriots who eventually took him in. So, no doubt anymore, Raiden's life is officially one big lie. We also get a side note on Solidus's intentions.
You're the spitting image of Big Boss.
There you have it too, Solidus is trying to be his own version of Big Boss, turning Manhattan into his own outer heaven and leaving his own legacy, like Big Boss did. Anyway, so he leaves, leaving us one-on-one time with Ocelot. Oh, by the way, all the MGS1 callbacks, Ocelot's aware of that, by the way.
This situation, I find it very nostalgic.
Where am I?
Why, inside Arsenal Gear, of course. Actually, we're also inside the memory of Shadow Moses.
Yeah, straight from the horse's mouth, we've been inside a giant repeat of Metal Gear Solid 1. By the way, Ocelot has that virus we need, and he leaves as Olga comes into the room. And Olga reveals that she's also a spy for the Patriots, because her child she was pregnant with is being held captive by the Patriots. By the way, after the tanker incident, she joined an illegal Russian group, which, you guessed it, it was just the Patriots. And if it wasn't clear enough of the Patriots run literally everything.
When I gave birth to my child, it turned out I was in a hospital run by the Patriots.
And her job from the Patriots was to, in fact, help us, because they would kill her child otherwise. Thankfully, though, Snake fought her off screen while we were helping Emma Emmerich, and helped her see what was really going on. Because, clearly an escort mission was way more interesting. But why would the Patriots want to help us, though? Well, that's the thing, they don't.
You're just like me. We're just pawns.
Pawns for what purpose?
The S3 plan.
Huh?
You'll figure it out sooner or later, but I wonder if you'll handle the truth.
Olga then punches us and leaves, and we...
Jack, are you alright?
Oh, great. Well, might as well tell Rose. So yeah, Jack now remembers everything. And of course, you can take a wild guess who's been tampering with his memories. But interestingly, Raiden now has a past, and therefore a kind of identity from that. Bad news, that identity is being a child soldier.
I'm not like Snake. I never questioned why we fought. There was no purpose, no way out. They give you a gun, you ask how many to kill. If you didn't, you were the one they shot instead.
So yeah, Raiden has a kind of a fucked up childhood. One that involves shit like being forced to eat drugged gunpowder in his food. Jesus.
We were fed once a day. I can still taste the gunpowder they mixed into the food.
Gunpowder? In the food?
What's up, gamers? Welcome to Metal Gear Cooking. This is how to make Raiden's Liberian hamburgers. So putting Raiden in the context of all these other characters, Raiden has an identity, one he absolutely does not want. And he finally admits this kind of defeat that he isn't Snake, nor will he be. Because Raiden can't escape his own fucked up reality.
The only people who have no problem with my past have secrets and agendas of their own. Terrible nightmares. Every night. I can never forget.
You should have told me.
Told you what? That I'm a killer? And always have been?
No, no.
What I hate more than anything else in the world is my own past.
Rose then tries reassuring Raiden she loves him anyways, but it doesn't really work too well.
And I know that what I feel for you can only get better. And I'll share in your past if that's the price.
It doesn't work that way. No one can share the burden of what I've done. It's not one of those warm and fuzzy things couples share.
Raiden then tells Rose he can't start a family with her whatsoever.
I know you want to get married.
I...
But I can't. I can't risk starting a family. There's no way to erase my childhood.
It's all right, Jack. Please, don't say any more.
And hey, look at that, we're free now. Okay. We're in Arsenal gear.
Raiden, do you copy? You must continue your mission. Your role, that is, mission.
My role? Why do you keep saying...
Skip. But when does this game get fucking good?
So Campbell's still alive, but he isn't himself. Constantly glitching and saying really weird shit.
Colonel, are you under orders from the Patriots?
Your role, that is...
My role? Why do you keep saying that?
Why not? This is a type of role-playing game.
So that AI network is the Colonel. We've been a test subject for an AI network.
I think it means you've been talking to an AI.
But anyways, in this part, we have to sneak by a bunch of guards completely naked, all while trying to...
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
So, this is the freaky part. This is the part where the game starts talking to you, staring directly back at you.
Honestly, though, you have played the game for a long time. Don't you have anything else to do with your time?
The AI, however, also starts spitting out just complete nonsense, which is a pretty eerie if you've ever seen ChatGPT malfunction. From unused story beats that don't go anywhere at all, clearly meant to manipulate Raiden further.
Actually, there is something I have been meaning to tell you, but I just couldn't. I think you should know, though. On Saturday morning last week, I saw a guy leaving Rosemary's room. How should I put it? It was like they were... intimate.
To just randomly referencing other Metal Gear Solid games?
Infiltrate the enemy fortress, Outer Heaven. Destroy the final weapon, Metal Gear. President Baker should be somewhere to the south of where you blasted through the wall. Hurry and save him before the terrorists discover his code. Variety level 13. Rescue Meryl. The return of Ginola. Your mission is to infiltrate the Fortress Galluade, rescue the hostages, and neutralize Metal Gear before its assembly is complete.
To just straight up nonsense.
I hear it's amazing when the famous purple stuffed worm in Flapjaw Space with the tuning fork does a raw blink on Harry Carey Rock. I need scissors. 61.
Dude, what the fuck is going on?
To make this segment even weirder, we're going through Arsenal Gear Jejunum, Ascending colon, Sigmoid colon, Rectum, and who the hell is this woman on my map? This part it feels like the game having a mental breakdown, which, you know what, kinda makes sense. Raiden's entire worldview is being broken down right in front of him. It's surreal, creepy, weird, nothing makes sense, but it's also so
Jack, it's me.
Oh, god damn it.
Jack, I owe you an apology. That day at Federal Hall 2 years ago, it wasn't a coincidence. I was ordered to keep an eye on you.
Keep an eye on me?
Yes, by the Patriots.
Oh, great. So our girlfriend has been a spy for the Patriots the whole time? To the point where she's changed everything about her to suit our taste.
Hairstyle, clothes, the way I moved, things I talked about. You say you love the color of my hair, my eyes. They're not even real.
Again, this expands on the whole escapism thing. Raiden becomes attached to something that really isn't reality. He's playing a role. I mean, this
is a type of role-playing game.
And he's figuring this out the hard way.
I don't know who you really are. The person I knew isn't real. She's not the woman I'm talking to right now. In a sense, the deception was my own, not theirs. I was in love, or thought I was, with someone who didn't exist. I was trying to be someone I wasn't by loving what wasn't real.
Base Raiden, no longer an incel.
Jack!
What?
I'm carrying. I'm pregnant, Jack.
Rose! What's going on?
Oh, except Rose is an AI too. Oh shit. Everything we know is a lie, and the truth is worse than we could ever imagine. If only there were a big, strong man who could twerk on me to save us right now.
Amazing how you walk around like that.
Holy shit, it's Snake! And he has our gear too, holy shit! And from the looks of it, he's also been look-maxing and mewing. But wait, didn't he like knock us out earlier?
Sorry about earlier. I had to use you as bait to gain access to Arsenal. It worked.
Oh, that's okay, you're fine, dude.
Why didn't you tell me about Olga?
You never asked.
I fucking love Snake. So Arsenal's headed for Manhattan and we gotta stop it. Snake also gives Raiden the katana ninja sword.
No f***ing way!
By the way, back in MGS1, you can receive an infinite ammo bandana for beating the game. I bring this up because this is directly mentioned in MGS2.
If you run out of ammo, you can have mine.
You got enough?
Absolutely. Infinite ammo.
Which, aside from being the funny Kojima fourth wall shenanigans, is also further evidence that MGS is indeed metafiction, and Raiden's life is looking more and more like a video game.
My life is like a video game. Try hard.
Speaking of which, this leads to Raiden asking Snake a few questions.
Snake, have you ever enjoyed killing someone?
What are you talking about?
I'm not sure. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between reality and a game.
Diminished sense of reality, huh? VR training will do that.
No. It was field training when I was a kid.
So at this point, we've been broken down enough, right? Nobody in Raiden's life is who he thinks he is, not even himself. But this here is when you realize that MGS2 has been deconstructing MGS1's plot. So once again, yes, this game is about ideology as opposed to MGS1's topic of genes. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself again, but this is important to go over. Metal Gear Solid 1 asks the question, what's more important, your genes or what you believe in? The answer, of course, being what you believe in. However, this leaves a massive gaping hole. What do you believe in? Remember that question, by the way. But on a more existential level, what are you going to leave behind? And is it really worth it to do so? I mean, we've seen with Fat Man and Stillman that it probably isn't. Raiden begins to worry about what exactly he'll be remembered for. I mean, in childhood, he was a child soldier, and in everything else, he was just kind of a pawn. And reminder, Raiden is kind of us, right? The kind of weird self-insert. So in turn, we probably live lives or have trauma we really don't want to live through, which can be a massive blow to our self-definitions, our identity. So we, through Raiden, ask Snake what to do with all that. And this next conversation, I'm gonna be honest, I've tried summarizing it or making it shorter, but it is such an interesting and empathetic conversation that I'm just gonna let it play it out for you.
Raiden, we don't carry guns to take people down. We're not here to help some politician either.
You can say that because you're a legend, a hero. I'm Jack the Ripper, a dirty reminder of a terrible mistake.
Legends don't mean a whole lot. I was just a name to exploit, just like you.
People will remember only the good part, the right part of what you did.
There's no right part in murder, not ever. And we're not in this to make a name for ourselves.
Then what are you and Otacon fighting for?
A future. You can stop being part of a mistake, starting now.
What am I? What am I supposed to do?
And this leads into one of my favorite lines in any work of fiction ever.
Find something to believe in, and find it for yourself. And when you do, pass it on to the future.
Believe in what?
That's your problem. Come on,
This small moment, it changed my life, man. Seeing a small scene like this really shocks me that Raiden was as controversial as he was. Because even though I described him as a weird anti-fan character, that there is a reason why he's a near perfect representation of the player base. Even after all the revelations, or perhaps because of them, Raiden still isn't sure who he is. But by extension, neither is anyone playing the game, or anyone in the world, actually. So many people struggle with their identity and what they believe in, and it's not unjustified to lack it either. The state of the world, mental health, trauma, all of these can shake your self-worth and self-view as a person. And not only that, but it's hard to find an ideology that's even true. And it's hard to figure out what true even means, period. It's no secret, Metal Gear Solid 2 is a postmodern text. It's something that I would go into more, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm really fucking stupid. But the philosophy of postmodernism essentially means that truth is relative. There is no objective truth, which at first sounds nihilistic, like there's no point to life. But in actuality, it's the exact opposite. Life is what you make of it, and the idea of truth is a kind of your own. Everybody you've encountered is an individual person, and so is Raiden. And no matter how much Raiden has been denying it, he's still a child soldier and a pawn at the end of the day. But it's never too late for him. If anything, now it's time for him to find something to believe in on his own. What matters is that you found something, and you found it for yourself, and you fight to pass that on to the future. Which is perfect because the very next scene that happens is a giant action fight scene, where you, the player, are fighting next to Solid fucking Snake. One of the most badass characters ever is in your fucking corner rooting for you, dude. Oh, what, you gonna turn the game console off now? Now, boy, you got some fucking work to do. There's even a point where you're fighting in the broken version of the game over screen. You are literally fighting and pushing against the mission failed screen. Bro, I want Kojima to get me We also, again, get confirmation that the kernel is an AI, and it's acting up because the virus is installed, which is good. Oh, by the way, the AI is way freakier than you think it is, because through nanomachines, it is algorithmically designed to Raiden's taste.
The kernel is, in part, your own creation, cobbled together from expectations and experience.
That's crazy!
But it's probably the truth.
Which is absolutely insane considering the rise of AI companions. People are literally making bots and character AI and getting attached to them. We are now literally at a point where life is reflecting Metal fucking Gear Solid 2. Anyways, we then encounter Fortune, who's here to kill Snake and everyone else.
Since no one can kill me, I may as well kill everyone I can.
Snake's then all like,
I didn't kill your father.
Fortune doesn't believe him, of course, so Snake's gonna deal with her for the time being, as Raiden goes up this ladder to the rectum of Arsenal Gear, where we encounter the voice of Solid Snake, who tells us about the S3 plan, a plan to recreate Solid Snake.
S3 stands for Solid Snake Simulation. It's a development program to artificially reproduce Solid Snake, the perfect warrior.
So yeah, again, we're just a Metal Gear recolor. Anyways, it's boss time. Solid Snake shows up, but we're not fighting him though. Rather, we're fighting
25 Metal Gear Rays.
All by ourselves, by the way.
I'm gonna kill myself tonight.
Oh, and they're all called Rose 1, Rose 2, whatnot. Oh, and they bleed too, if that wasn't freaky. So yeah, this boss might be a little bit over the top, but then the boss fight stops and then Olga shows up, and she tells us that if we die, her child dies. But then Solid Snake, the ex-president and the bad guy, uses his electric flamethrower Dr. Octopus arms to choke Olga, which then he swirls his P90 and then shoots her and kills her. You see, I love Metal Gear because I can say shit like that in one take.
Enjoy the show, Jack.
No.
But then the AI starts going haywire because of the virus, so all 25 of the Metal Gear Rays start going insane! So Solid Snake, the ex-president, and the third Snake brother, jumps up in the air and uses his P90 to shoot. And bad news, he has us in a chokehold and now he has Snake captive, allowing him to knock us out and do the same to us. But then turns out his real objective was to expose who the Patriots were. But then turns out, Ocelot was a spy for the Patriots the whole time.
Everything you've done here has been scripted. A little exercise set up by us. This is the S3 training kernel. An orchestrated recreation of Shadow Moses.
Even Fortune's dad's death and her acting on revenge was all planned by the Patriots too, which she reveals before shooting her in the chest.
You're no Lady Luck. You have nothing that we didn't give you.
Yeah, even Fortune's invincibility is all just one little device.
There's no such thing as miracles or the supernatural. Only cutting-edge technology.
Or so we think, because Ocelot gets in the Metal Gear and shoots a bunch of missiles, only for them to completely miss, as Fortune reaches out her hands in near sacrifice.
She is Lady Luck.
My name is Helena Dolph Jackson, the daughter of a proud and noble soldier.
And this right here is where Fortune's character dies. It's a nice ending to her character, where she goes from nihilistic to finally fighting for something. She's granted the death she wants, but it's such a noble death at the end of the day. I promise you, Fortune, you won't be forgotten. You'll be in my YouTube video essay. But then, conveniently, Liquid takes over Ocelot's body.
I've been waiting for this.
And Liquid's here to destroy the Patriots, which is why he's in Ocelot's body. But then Snake breaks free as Liquid takes Metal Gear and dives after him. Oh yeah, don't forget we're on a giant Metal Gear garage that's gonna crash into New York, which, by the way, it does. But not only is it now crashed in New York, but now we crashed right into
Federal Hall.
Okay, dude, it's not that funny.
What are you laughing at?
Do you know what day it is today?
April 30th? I'm not teaming. I'm not teaming.
Okay, so all jokes aside, that is a pretty important date, actually. Because, you know, the game told me. This is where Solidus reveals his true motivation. You see, the Patriots are taking away pure American freedom.
This post was fact-checked.
All through digital censorship. However, here's the thing, he's not doing it to actually free anyone. Rather, he's doing it to, you guessed it, leave behind a legacy. So, on the surface, it's a very selfish reason.
I want my memory, my existence to remain. Unlike an intron of history, I will be remembered as an exon. That will be my legacy, my mark in history.
However, here's the thing, the game also humanizes him. Here's a reminder that he is indeed the third Snake clone, and therefore can't reproduce, meaning this is the only way he can leave any kind of mark on history. He doesn't show it, but Solidus is terrified of being forgotten.
The data of life is transferred from parent to child. That's how it works. But we have no heirs, no legacy.
And this is in stark contrast to Liquid, who is kind of just a bratty child, who didn't understand that it's not your genes that make you, but who you are. Solidus, on the complete opposite end, is much more understandable, weirdly enough. Unlike Liquid, he understands that it's his ideology that makes him and what he leaves behind.
When the torch is passed on from parent to child, it extends beyond DNA. Information is imparted as well. What is our legacy if we cannot pass the torch? Proof of our existence, a mark of some sort. All I want is to be remembered by other people, by history.
Although, with that being said, he's still, you know, the bad guy, and is still trying to nuke Manhattan. Also, the child soldier thing, not a fan. And in the end, he's still acting very selfishly. He's not freeing anyone because he wants to free the people, but rather so he can be desperately written down in the history books. It's an interesting twist on the road to hell is paved with good intentions, as Solidus has very selfish ulterior motives to those good intentions. And further as to why I think Solidus is one of the most underrated characters in the whole series. But with that being said, we gotta take him down now, leading to one last final boss fight.
I will triumph over the Patriots and liberate us all, and we will become the Sons of Liberty!
Raiden, are you receiving? We're still here.
How's that possible? The AI was destroyed.
Only GW.
So turns out the AI is still alive, which results in arguably the most famous and yet most unnerving scene in the whole game. There are tons of analysis videos on this scene alone, which makes it even harder for me to actually add anything, but I'll just try the best I can, so here we go. So now we're directly talking to the AI system that's been lying to us the whole game.
Who are you? To begin with, we're not what you'd call human.
A system that speaks almost divinely, but still so pragmatically.
Over the past 200 years, a kind of consciousness formed layer by layer in the crucible of the White House. It's not unlike the way life started in the oceans 4 billion years ago. We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often.
But now it's time to ask the question, why would you want to censor the internet? And the AIs have a really good rebuttal.
Why would you take away individual freedoms and censor the net?
Don't you know that our plans have your interests, not ours, in mind?
What?
Jack, listen carefully. Like a good boy.
So essentially the AI begins by talking about genes, and how essentially we have a greater knowledge of genealogy than ever before. However, in a direct deconstruction of Metal Gear Solid 1's theming, your genes and who you are two different things, and that creates a problem. Because you see, the ideologies we do share have shaped the entirety of human history, but ideologies, and by extension culture, is so much harder to maintain and preserve.
But there are things not covered by genetic information.
What do you mean?
Human memories, ideas, culture, history.
Genes don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on?
Now, of course, nowadays we have plenty of ways of spreading and preserving information, newspapers, radio, history books, and biographies. However, that information was also much more easily translatable. These were forms of communication that were much more limited, and as a result, information was easier to maintain. You could create a collective narrative. You could have your population focus on big issues, or distract them from one.
We've always kept records of our lives. Through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations. A small percentage of the whole was selected and processed, then passed on. Not unlike genes, really.
This, of course, brings us to the idea of misinformation. Now, misinformation has always been a part of human history, but genuinely dangerous misinformation does eventually get filtered out, and that's why the Patriots view the internet specifically as a threat. Because the internet, the information superhighway, is full of junk information and junk misinformation. The internet has become a 24/7 tabloid for every single thing you could ever imagine, and the AI and the Patriots view this as a stunt to the human species.
But in the current digitized world, trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness, never fading, always accessible.
Rumors about petty issues, misinterpretations, slander.
All this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
This is pretty much what social media is nowadays, right? So much information, fact or not, can just be put out there and accessible within a matter of seconds. There are, however, plenty of people telling the truth, whatever that means, and all this without any kind of real narrative or anything. And that's what the AI plans to do, create a narrative.
Right. You seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Create context?
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths.
Which is, by the way, a good time to mention, there is a difference between fact and truth. Fact is objective and inarguable, while truth is a bit more subjective than that, with differing perspectives being taken more into account. The thing is, all facts are obviously true, but not all truth is fact. Let me give an example. Let's say I owned a Blaze the Cat plush toy. Now, Blaze the Cat is a purple, right? She's a purple cat. However, I have a housekeeper, and he's colorblind. So if I were to ask him what color as my Blaze the Cat plush toy, he would go, oh, that's a blue cat. Now, of course, he's factually incorrect, but he's not lying to me. He's telling me the truth. This is, of course, just the idea of multiple perspectives, which, if you think about it, is a massive double-edged sword, as people are able to manipulate information, and as a result, tell multiple versions of the truth that ends up juxtaposing with each other.
Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
Rights of criminals are given more respect than the privacy of their victims.
Although there are people suffering in poverty, huge donations are made to protect endangered species.
And then think about how long exactly this has all been going on, and just how generally hypocritical humanity itself is, especially in this age. And all we've ever done is just continue to enable that.
Everyone grows up being told the same thing.
Be nice to other people.
But beat out the competition.
You're special. Believe in yourself and you will succeed.
But it's obvious from the start that only a few can succeed.
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt.
The thing is, though, people are more than comfortable with subscribing to a false sense of truth, all for the sake of comfort. It's a similar reason why escapism exists. And people are more than happy to get full-on radicalized in these small little circles, just to avoid the reality of conflict or discomfort, all while ironically becoming more hostile to any idea that clashes with their own. People online lock themselves into their own echo chambers, while not realizing this is only worsening themselves. But yet, at the same time, people who are too far gone in this end up attacking other people anyways, which to the Patriots is an obstacle in the way of social progress.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
You see, it's not because of a single ideology, but a violent bunch of ideologies fighting against each other, and yet not actually progressing anything that ends up creating the Patriots AI system. They want to filter information for our benefit because we need it. Because we have proven time and time again to fail at progressing society.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
That's what it means to create context.
And I mean, do you even really know better? In fact, let me ask a question. Why do you believe what you believe? Do you believe it through personal exploration and life experiences? Or do you just believe everything a significant figure tells you?
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you?
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
The AIs then talked about the idea of self, or in other words, identity, something we've been exploring throughout the game. However, according to the Patriots, self is just something we use to make us feel better.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
That's crap!
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best, and you got there all by yourself.
But even though we barely have an identity we can call our own, we sure are hell-bent on desperately protecting it, but only to make us feel better, which is why we really don't have any ability to say what truth is at all.
Ironic that although self is something that you yourself fashioned, every time something goes wrong, you turn around and place the blame on something else.
It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
In denial, you simply resort to looking for another, more convenient truth in order to make yourself feel better.
Leaving behind in an instant the so-called truth you once embraced.
Should someone like that be able to decide what is truth?
Think about that question real hard, by the way. Can you even decide what is truth?
The individual is supposed to be weak, but far from powerless. A single person has the potential to ruin the world.
And the age of digitized communication has given even more power to the individual. Too much power for an immature species.
It's a damn good argument as to why we don't deserve free will. Think about everything you've seen online, in the news, all around you. And wait, what about the people who run the news and online networks? Do they know any better? Are they even qualified to decide? Because there sure are too many cases where the answer is hell fucking no. In this day and age, in the age of the internet, we don't deserve free will. In fact, looking through human history, did we ever really deserve it ever? The difference now, though, is that the internet is now a Pandora's box of truth, meaning we've overstepped our boundaries with free will.
You've done nothing but abuse your freedom.
You don't deserve to be free.
And the whole game was just the Patriots testing the waters. They weren't trying to train us at all, but rather see if they could algorithmically control humanity in order to ensure its survival.
The S3 plan does not stand for solid snake simulation. What it does stand for is selection for societal sanity. The S3 is a system for controlling human will and consciousness.
So you see, we're the S3, not you.
They also chose Raiden for straight up denying his own past. Again, using Raiden as a way to mock the player for escaping into a fictional world.
We used Shadow Moses as a paradigm for the exercise.
I wonder if you would have preferred a fantasy setting.
Do you know why we chose you over them? It was because you were the only one who refused to acknowledge the past.
But you turn your back on everything you don't like. You do whatever you like, see only the things you like, and for yourself alone. You pretended to be understanding, to be a gentleman. You never made a conscious attempt to reach out to me.
I was just trying not to...
What? Trying not to hurt me? Dear, the one you were trying not to hurt was yourself. Avoiding the truth under the guise of kindness is all that you did.
So you see, you're a perfect representative of the masses we need to protect. You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
And we can't break out now because they have Olga's child. And if we, the player, turn the game console off, then yeah, Olga's child is dead. So our only choice now is to keep playing the game. All because we bought into their reality and it's too late to back out now. And that's the scariest part of the Patriots and the AI. It's not that they're shadowy or they control everything behind the scenes or the extent of what they control, but it's because they're right. Human beings don't deserve free will. We have no idea what truth is. We're set up for failure under the guise of false promises. And that's why this moment is so profound and still profound to this day. It strikes a chord that I've rarely seen in any other work of fiction. It truly is existentially terrifying.
So, Jack the Ripper, will it be Solidus, the Patriot's creation, or you, Solidus's creation? Our beloved monsters. Enjoy yourselves.
Although the moment is kind of ruined knowing that Solidus was just kind of standing there for 13 minutes. Also, another large plot twist, Solidus killed Raiden's parents. I'm gonna be honest, I love this game. This shit's unnecessary. This part's already dramatic as is, and all this extra stuff is pretty much just brain mush. You see, I'm not a Kojima dick writer, sometimes. Alrighty, yo, final boss time. Man, these sword controls aged like dog ass. We also get another brief AI codec call, which tells us what we already know. Wow, guys, I can't believe it. Raiden's a pawn. So anyways, we slice open Solidus, make him fall over, and kneel at George Washington's feet, motherfucker. Although now, Raiden is broken down and alone, even as people surround him. Which, I don't blame him. After that whole game and the AI conversation and everything, I'm not really sure what I am.
Who am I, really? No one quite knows who or what they are.
Raiden, disregard what I just told you. The most important thing for you to do now is enjoy a mouth-watering Egg McMuffin sandwich from the new all-day breakfast menu at McDonald's.
In all seriousness, yeah, Snake's here. And he's here to give us more life advice. After having a whole game where you don't know what's real or not, Snake ends up saying, you know what? It doesn't matter. Because what matters is that what you went through is yours. If people go through their own versions of reality every day. So really, was there ever an absolute reality? Either way, it doesn't matter. It's what you do with it that matters.
The memories you have and the role you were assigned are burdens you had to carry. It doesn't matter if they were real or not. That's never the point. not. There's no such thing in the world as absolute reality. Most of what they call real is actually fiction. What you think you see is only as real as your brain tells you it is.
In other words, no matter how real or not real something was, no matter how traumatic it was, what matters the most is what Raiden does with it, or what you do with it, in fact. If it wasn't clear enough, Metal Gear Solid 2 includes one of my favorite messages in anything. And Snake's speech here conveys it so damn well. So many people fear what they'll leave behind after they die. They fear what kind of legacy they'll have, especially when life gets out of their control.
What am I supposed to believe in? What am I going to leave behind when I'm through?
The answer to Raiden's question there is not an easy one to figure out. Reality can be fucked and your perception can be broken, but that doesn't have to be your absolute reality. What really matters is that everything you felt in your life is real, and you can use your experiences to improve the future. You're still alive and have time left, and no matter what happens, everything is up to you.
We can tell other people about having faith. What we had faith in. What we found important enough to fight for. It's not whether you were right or wrong, but how much faith you were willing to have. That decides the future. Listen, don't obsess over words so much. Find the meaning behind the words, then decide. You can find your own name. And your own future.
Decide for myself?
And whatever you choose will be you. I know you didn't have much in terms of choices this time. But everything you felt, thought about during this mission is yours. And what you decide to do with them is your choice. Choose your own legacy. It's for you to decide. It's up to you.
Snake then notices Raiden's dog tags with our name on them, and dog tags that Raiden throws away. It symbolizes us. As the game ends, it's time for us to go out and live a new life. We're no longer tied to Raiden, we can choose our future and our identities.
I'll pick my own name, and my own life. I'll find something worth passing on.
Raiden learns that in spite of his painful experiences, there's valuable information to be learned. And that means there's valuable things to be passed on to the future. And more importantly, yeah, humans don't deserve free will, which is why it's a miracle we even have it. And we can still use it to our fullest ourselves.
They taught me some good things, too.
I know. We've inherited freedom from all those who fought for it. We all have the freedom to spread the word, even me.
Snake then says he'll take care of the Olga's child situation. And he has names of all the Patriots, even though it's actually a fluke in the after credits scene. Raiden then tries joining Snake, but he stops him. And then Raiden realizes he has something else to take care of. That person being, of course, his reality here on out, which is Rose, where we see their first real-world interaction.
Can I ask you something? Who am I, really?
I wouldn't know. But we're going to find out together, aren't we?
Oh.
See me for what I am, okay?
Raiden then finally remembers what day it is, so, that nightmare's over.
I remember now.
Hmm?
Today is the day I met you. April 30th?
Anyways, all jokes aside, we get two incredibly beautiful ending speeches. One between Raiden and Rose, and one after the credits from Snake, discussing genes, legacy, and why our characters stay alive. I could do what I've been doing and add my own commentary to them, but honestly, they're so perfect, I don't want to ruin them. So I'll play them both uncut for you here.
I think I found something to pass along to the future.
What?
He said all living things want their genes to live on.
Are you talking about the baby?
Yeah. But genes aren't the only thing you pass on. There are too many things that aren't written into our DNA. It's up to us to teach that to our children.
What kind of things?
About the environment, our ideas, our culture, poetry, compassion, sorrow, joy. We'll tell them everything together.
Is that a proposal?
This is for your ears only.
Life isn't just about passing on your genes. We can leave behind much more than just DNA. Through speech, music, literature, and movies, what we've seen, heard, felt, anger, joy, and sorrow. These are the things I will pass on. That's what I live for. We need to pass the torch and let our children read our messy and sad history by its light. We have all the magic of the digital age to do that with. The human race will probably come to an end sometime, and new species may rule over this planet. Earth may not be forever, but we still have the responsibility to leave what traces of life we can. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing.
Metal Gear Solid 2 is a messy game, and it's probably my favorite game ever made. This is the quintessential postmodern video game, and it's brilliant because of it. It's mind-bending, but beautiful, and also completely off the fucking walls. Again, I think the game is an anti-fan fiction. It deconstructs the whole idea of escaping into a fictional realm. It really has you asking questions like, do we as humans deserve free will? Or what kind of legacy are we as individuals going to leave behind? Raiden as a character is lied to and beaten down. But no matter what happens to you, it's about what you carry on to the future. How you take your experiences and translate them. You can find individuality even in the face of information control. You find something to believe in and then pass it on to the future, which is just such a beautiful message. As you can tell, this game's very personal to me. It was there during a very dark period in my life, and it's been there for a lot of other ones too. It's a game that reminds me that no matter how dark things get, or no matter how much humans don't deserve free will, life is something we still have and is a miracle we have it anyways. The game may critique escapism, but it also tells you that what you felt in that was real, and the important thing is that you carry on what you learned into your real life. So many other characters lived false legacies and false lives, but what you need to do is find something for yourself. It's a part of why I'm making this video, to be honest. I want to pass this game on to you guys. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a messy, messy game, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Too bad the fans hated it though. Yeah, so fans weren't a big fan of the whole play as a twink instead of snake thing, making Metal Gear Solid 2 extremely controversial. In other words, they just didn't see the vision yet. This meant that Kojima had to regain fan trust and play it safe for one more game, while also finding something to say in that. And balancing artistic expression and fan service is insanely hard to do, especially for a franchise as deep as Metal Gear. So where did that leave the next game? Oh! What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme.
Feels like gonna catch me riding dirty.
Right, come in. Right.
Hi, sweetie.
Hi, Rose.
Have you been eating well?
I'm kind of busy right now, Rose.
Did you drink water today?
Yeah.
If you have, then good job, baby.
What do you mean?
If not, go ahead and get yourself a snack.
Huh?
make sure you take care of yourself. Because I care about you.
Is this really the time to bring this up?
You know you can always talk to me whenever, right?
Rose, we've always...
No, sleep well tonight.
What?
And sweet dreams.
What are you talking about?
Run up in this shit, run up in this shit. Oh,
I can't say goodbye to yesterday, my friend. I keep holding on till the end. Out of the darkness, there is no other way than the light leading to the
I like that.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
Laugh and grow fat.
wow, it's lavender, fresh, comforter.
I see that you enjoy Nintendo games.
Yeah, when I can legally play them.
You like Silicon Knights games, don't you? Did you enjoy playing Eternal Darkness?
Ooh, that game is so underrated, actually.
You've been playing Super Mario Sunshine, haven't you?
No, because I don't like Mario Sunshine.
Oh, so you've played Super Smash Bros. Melee before?
Don't even get me started, man.
This post was fact-checked as false by Real American Patriots.
I just landed
inside strut A of Shell 1.
We're here at the
Big Shell, Raiden.
Thank you for coming on such short notice. Of course. There's something we seriously need to go over today, but I brought you a gift of some
hanging mode.
Nougats.
Hanging?
Unfortunately,
Approximately 6 hours ago, the Big Shell was seized by an armed group.
And we need you to save it, okay? What can you do to help us?
I didn't want it to come to this, but I may have to call in
the Sons of Liberty.
If you believe.
This post was fact-checked as true by Real American Patriots.
Now we set out to write our amazing fanfiction original character. The first thing our original character needs is... The first thing ROC needs is to be a stand-in for the writer. My original character is an idealized version of myself. We'll also just keep designing them until they are overflowing with superfluous details. Will this clash with the design of the canon characters? That's the point. Focusing on the self-insert wish fulfillment aspect of the original character also frees up the writer from worrying about that pesky audience expectation problem.
At the very end, the S3 plan reveals that the fans' expectations have been carefully toyed with this whole time. It almost makes a mockery of them, and certainly makes a mockery of Raiden.
And if anyone complains about the character, then just cudgel them with the original character's overly long backstory.
I think I was only 6 when I held my first AK.
Suddenly, as I'm about to turn the page, someone grabs my wrist. Jungkook Opar. He slams the book to the ground and pins me up against the wall.
Postmodern game is an it's important to know exactly why that's the word they chose.
The fleeting nature of time and the volatility of business now means that workers live in episodic moments of the present. Kids grow up in phases, and the unemployed are in between jobs. We're always trying to plan ahead, so the future has been folded into the present. And on top of that is the confusing realization that this entire planet, which is actually quite a small and lonely.
Level 1 GAT. Embarrassing. Level 2 GAT. Oh, I gat something in my eye. Level 3 GAT. Chat, this is a rare GAT sighting. This is a rare GAT sighting.
Like being in a nightmare you can't wake up from.
Jack, snap out of it.
I'm not sure. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between reality and a game.
Nobody's aware of it, but there's a subsystem in place, and it's about to be activated.
Complete your mission.
Konnichiwa, Steven Spielberg des.
What are you laughing at?
That croc died a dishonorable death 6 months ago.